Welcome to the Tahoe Truckee Unified School District Board of Trustees meeting. Today is February 24th, 2021. Dee Dee, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance now that we're all -1 back in the same room? We're so excited.
Can you see I'm smiling? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Dee Dee. The board did meet in closed session this evening. We took no reportable action in closed session. Superintendent Geisels, are there any changes to this evening's agenda?
No, President, there are not.
Would someone like to move approval of the...
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Well, do we need to do roll call with Galen being remote, or can we do it?
Yes, if someone is remote, I need to do it.
Okay, thank you, Lupita.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Member Levac?
Aye.
Member Hennessy?
Aye.
Member Driller?
Aye.
Clerk Larson?
Yes.
President Zurich?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Next, we have public comment. Public comment is on anything not on this evening's agenda. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Mr. Hilton, do we have public comment on anything not on this evening's agenda?
There's no public comment that's general. It's all on the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you very much. So, speaking of which, Superintendent Geisels.
Thank you, President Zurich. If you would give me just a moment to share my screen. And let me know, Mr. Hilton, if you can see this. Yes, we can. Good evening, Tahoe Truckee community that's watching remotely, and trustees. It's really nice to see you and members of Executive Cabinet in person. I'd like to start off tonight's presentation with celebrations. Of course, with that in mind, and throughout my presentation, we have our 5 guiding principles that drive our decisions regarding our students and our instruction and our practice. So celebrations. We reopened in hybrid February 1st, 2021. We've also partnered with Nevada County, Placer County, Tahoe Forest, and they together made it possible for our Ttusd community, our staff, our employees, to be vaccinated. Our first vaccination was February 3rd, and we are looking forward to having our second dose vaccination this Friday, February 26th. Now, Ms. Jones-Apatini is going to talk about the third bullet, about more than 80% of our staff have been vaccinated. So, Joan?
So we had 600 people total on our list. Of that, 86% of those people are either getting their second dose or already getting their first dose this week.
So that's quite an accomplishment. And again, we have Tahoe Forest, Placer, and Nevada counties to thank for that. So speaking of opening in hybrid, I wanted you to take a look at some of these amazing photos of our teachers, our students, and our staff. As you can see, some familiar faces even behind the mask. Some more wonderful photos of our students at our school sites, enjoying being back. So our goal is to transition into 5 days in person of instruction, but there's a lot of processes and pieces that we have to put into place to do that as a public school district. So on January 14th, the California Department of Public Health issued a revised COVID-19 reopening instruction, in-person instruction frameworks guidance for all schools in the state of California. We started planning. It's underway with the district leadership team. We recently met this week. We sat down page by page and looked at that guidance. We brainstormed questions. We thought of possible challenges and ideas to solutions to those recommendations based on that school framework. Our assistant principals, along with their principals, and our executive cabinet department directors as well, sat down and thought through every possible scenario. Our district principals and assistant principals are now developing sample 5-day in-person schedules using that framework. Ms. Nanette Rondeau is also developing bus route schedules for 5-day in-person instruction. We're going to meet again on March 1st to review, refine, and revise these schedules, as well as other measures that address classroom floor plans. It is a non-negotiable. We must have distance chair to chair of no more, or no less rather, than 4 feet. If we have less than 4 feet, we have to test systematically on a very, very tight cadence. We also have to look at how lunch is served, how recess and break times are implemented. When our school schedules are finalized, we will meet with both Tahoe Truckee Education Association and our Classified School Employees Association to present our schedules and negotiate the impacts of the working conditions regarding these schedules. Now, an update on athletics, which I'm sure we have a lot of parent interest in. During Ski Skate Week, the revised Cdbh guidelines were released on February 19th. Excuse me. The guidance allows for counties with fewer than 14 positive COVID-19 cases per 100,000 to participate in youth sports. We are currently at 10 cases, 10.6 actually, per 100,000. Our students can participate in a variety of sports and outdoor activities. However, based on the sport, there are different restrictions. And our teams right now currently are not allowed per these guidelines to participate in any out-of-state games and tournaments. The lower contact sports include the following, as you can see. And each student athlete must have a signed assumption of risk permission slip, which I'll explain at the end of this slide. Our higher contact sports, such as football and soccer, you can see that there is a weekly testing requirement for our student athletes who are 13 years and over, and they too must have a signed permission slip. Another added point that I must make sure that we address is that our coaches in these sports must also have a negative COVID test 24 hours prior to a competition. So testing right now, while we're in the Purple Till, is a very big piece. We have plans in place on how to address that short-term and looking at long-term plans as well. Now, the assumption of risk is really a very significant, detailed permission slip. Parents and students must sign it. It outlines the safety mitigation measures that they will follow. It also outlines the things that they will do in case they feel symptomatic in any way. We have an assumption of risk, and we're looking to revise it based on the latest guidance, and we should be having that by tomorrow at the latest. So, next steps regarding athletic practice. We received these guidelines February 19th, like every other school district in the state, and we are being, as our 5 guiding principles say, responsive and flexible on how we address these guidelines. I want to address the one piece that we are working on is practice locations for all sports, and also at the same time address that there's been some misinformation publicly that I want to specifically address. We were thinking of, and we were approached by two of the high schools about how to find ways to practice. One was including transporting our students by bus to certain practice fields. This is not the case. We have no intention of transporting our students by bus to a distant location to practice. What we are doing is looking for locations and making plans behind the scenes to find practice fields for all sports. In football, soccer, boys and girls soccer included. So we are just about there, about plans. Mr. Rivera, if you want to talk about any specific details that we're working on regarding these plans.
So, well, Mr. Rivera is getting the mic. If I could clarify what I heard you say.
Yes, ma'am.
Have we ever considered busing our students, our scholar athletes to Auburn to
No.
practice?
We were, it was an idea that was presented to us by one of the high schools, and we said that is not a safe way to offer this practice. So no, we were not even considering busing at any time.
Thank you.
Thank you. So looking at options for practice, one of the things I do want to note is that we really do want to stay away from any type of practice or snow removal on our natural turf fields. There's a lot of reasons why, but it all leads to potential irreparable damage on those fields. Also, playing and removing snow off of fields in their dormant stage from our turf management consultant has told us that really there needs to be a cycle in place where the turf is allowed to defrost, come back to life in a sense, start growth cycles again before we can really start playing on that. So there's a lot of issues with trying to remove snow off from natural turf. We don't want to go there at this point. What we are looking at is potential options for Alder Creek Middle School, which is an artificial turf. I would say, however, we've never done this at this scale before. There is risk involved. That field is over 14 years old. We're currently looking at ways to just refurbish it and extend its useful life over the next 5 years, just in its current state. So we're going to be working with contractors and seeing what we can do. Right now there's a foot and a half of pretty much solid ice on that field. So it's going to take some time too. But we're going to see what we can do. If we can remove it, great. If not, then we'll have to find some other solutions.
Can I ask, I'm sorry for
Absolutely.
interrupting your
No,
presentation.
please.
So, thank you, Todd and Carmen. But, so I'm reacting to some of the pre-emails that we got from parents. If we remove the snow from the ACMS turf field, that turf field will be allocated amongst all of our sports that are Truckee sports. One of the emails was, oh, well, football is Truckee. Well, I actually think girls soccer is Truckee. The 4-time state champions is actually Truckee. And I actually think the academic team is Truckee. And I think the golf team is Truckee and the Nordic team. But I just want to make sure that we're clear that if we have turf fields, it's for all of our sports.
Yes, and if I can speak to that, President Zurich, I do know that Ms. Maloney is working on a rotation schedule regarding all of her sports at Truckee High School to be able to have access to, we hope, the Alder Creek Middle School turf field or any field that we can provide with a rotation basis. So it will not be just for one sport, it'll be dedicated for all the sports. And Ms. Maloney is working really hard with her coaches and her athletic directors to do that.
Thank you. And so the other clarity here is this changed 5 days ago.
Yes.
So a little kindness and a little patience and a little kindness goes a long way in this situation.
I would like to add, while Todd's getting to the mic, is that, yes, we just received these guidance for athletics, and they don't even come into effect until Friday. So I would ask our community that, please know that we're working as hard as we can, as quickly and responsibly as we can for our students, and that we're trying really hard to come up with solutions. And we appreciate your comments and your input. At the same time, please know we read every single one of them, and we consider every single one of them, and we move forward as best as we can with the guidance compliance recommendations. Mr. Rivera?
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add to, with regards to looking at options for removing the snow off the Alder Creek field. This is something that's a very unique circumstance for us. This is not something that we would look to do on an ongoing basis. We're doing this for the students. We're doing this because there's a need. There's multiple field sports at a time when we wouldn't normally have multiple field sports. So this is looking at kind of a one-time special, unique circumstance.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Sorry, just for interrupting. I just want to say thank you for that, but I also think appreciate your input on terms of the comments and the letters, Carmen, that we do read. But again, I think the sensitivity in terms of how we're all moving forward, we obviously have students in mind, and we also have the social and emotional welfare of the students, but I think it's hard to not put emotions first. And I think I really mimic and support what your comment in terms of, the harshness of some letters or whatnot that are getting out there. It's just, take time to be patient and listen and be kind. I think kind is the big thing because, it stops us in our tracks when we get all this sort of negative feedback, and positive support is huge. And again, Carmen, I appreciate everybody's comments. Like, that's something we need to hear, but please put, some care in terms of how your presentation is.
Thank you, Trustee Driller. Moving forward, an update on state line competition athletics. I met with the superintendent of Lake Tahoe Unified School District and our legal counsel, which happens to be the same firm, and we talked about what can we do in our unique situation about state line competition and crossing lines and competing within I-2A. We received, both the superintendent from Lake Tahoe Unified and myself, received really specific guidance. The first thing that's going to happen is our legal counsel on our behalf, both districts, will write a letter to California Department of Public Health explaining our case, that we are located geographically in California, yet we compete in Nevada, and that we should at least be given some consideration to continue to do that, especially when case rates drop. The next three bullets we are doing within our district. The first one is we formally will contact Placer County Department of Public Health and let them know of our intentions to pursue this. We also will have been directed to contact our school insurance coverage provider and let them know of our intent to pursue this. And then that assumption of risk forms that I mentioned, we're going to revise it with the help of our legal counsel to add an asterisk. And in just plain layman terms, the asterisk is kind of a contingency clause. When parents and students sign it, they have to sign it with the understanding that we will continue to pursue out-of-state competition. However, at any given time, Cdbh may pull that from us and say, no, you may not go. But we're going to keep moving forward in the interest of our students. We just have to follow certain processes and protocols at this time. Lastly, again, students are the focus of all our decisions, and I cannot thank our TTUSD teachers, our classified, our district management team for all of the pivot and flexibility that they demonstrate daily during this transition and this school year. As a new superintendent, I'm impressed daily with the dedication. So please know that we are always thinking of the safety of our students and staff. We believe that we can transition to 5 days of instruction, and this is what we're working towards, and we're quite happy that one of the most amazing obstacles and challenges, thanks to 2 counties and 1 hospital, is vaccinations. So we're excited to come back with sample schedules for the board to review and for our community to see, and we're excited to keep moving forward with athletics. So that's all I have for tonight. President Zurich?
Thank you very much. Very much appreciated. So I believe we do have public comment. Mr. Hilton on.
Public comment before board questions?
Is that okay?
Yeah, I just don't remember the process.
All right, Ed, let me just stop this all together. If I
Yes,
can.
you do have some public comments on the superintendent's report. Just a reminder, we run it at 500 words due to the 3-minute limit, and that's about what I read. And I try to read as fast as I can, but we do run it through for the word count. This is the first comment from Jacqueline Anderson. She writes, "Board members, I'm writing to implore you to return to our schools to 5 days of instruction once our community reaches red tier status and teachers have been given the opportunity to vaccinate. A year without in-person school is too long for the children in our community. Many districts in the state, neighboring states, and several local organizations have reopened full-time safely, or at least, very least, have a plan to be communicated such plan on when they will be returning to full-time instruction. Ttusd, by contrast, seems to lack both transparency and urgency with respect to returning our schools to their intended operations. Why don't we have a Ttusd safety guidebook for reopening full-time? What metrics need to be met in order for this to happen in our community as it has in many others? I was educated in Ttusd from kindergarten through 12th grade. I recall fondly my time attending the schools in this area and feel my educators helped prepare me for a successful future. There's no doubt in my mind that the district during my time was committed to the excellence in education for all students. I fear that the same commitment does not exist for my children. I hope in your discussions that you will realize the impact this is having on students and families in our community. As you know, the children of the community are your constituents, and we as their parents and guardians are their fiercest advocates now and in the 2022 and 2024 election years. Thank you for your time. Jacqueline Anderson. One second. This next is from Kim Furtado. I'm sorry, I've got to pull this down or I'm going to be, I might pass out. My name is Kim Furtado, and I live in Glenshire with my 2 children, ages 8 and 11 years old. I work full-time from my home and vehicle. My territory ranges from the Summit east to the Utah border as far as Alder, California, south to Gardner-Neville, Nevada. My Subaru is often the office space for myself and the classroom for my kids. I sacrifice my hotspot for them, and sometimes none of us can use the hotspot due to topography. My husband is a fire chief. That career does not allow him to juggle child rearing and teaching while on shift. Therefore, much of that responsibility falls on me. You already know that this is not sustainable. We hired a tutor. She quit in favor of online tutoring. The program we signed my 8-year-old up for lost its lease due to COVID. We've done everything right except quit our jobs, which we cannot do, and this is an unacceptable option. My daughter is falling behind in math, and I've signed her up for third-party help. Social media is a fantastic platform for bashing working parents right now, so for those that think we want our babysitters back, I would strongly suggest you bite your tongue and consider we know our kids aren't getting what they need. We know we are not their best teacher. For those that suggest this is a character-building opportunity, it is not. We can character build life skills and social norms, but I'm not a great teacher. I know my children deserve better than this, better than me as a math, reading, and writing teacher. In fact, the law requires it. We know that the naysayers patronize our businesses daily, unintentionally speaking out of both corners of your mouth by demanding our job performance and your daily interactions, while simultaneously bad-mouthing us as your substandard parents, like because you do not know we are one and the same. We are your public servants and private service providers, so everywhere you go for the next week, ask yourself, where are their children? Could these folks effectively balance kids and Google Classroom while meeting my needs right now? Placer County Health Department meets today to discuss moving us to red tier per a Placer County Health Department employee. We have all the school safety measures in place, and we know that teachers receive their vaccine booster on Friday. So it's up to the board to determine if our schools will open. However, the principal's response was the district is looking into what the state requirements are for returning to 5 days a week and how we can best meet those requirements. I reviewed the Cdbh link you sent out indicating there are parameters you need to meet to open back to full-time in-person learning. It's nearly 60 days old, so I would expect administrators had plenty of time to pivot and meet their outline. Section 2-1 has Ttusd onboarded with state-owned, and then after that we're past the 500-word 3-minute limit. And that's from Kim Furtado. The next comment is from Stephanie Howard. She says, good morning, board members. My children and I, as well as many other families in our area, are very eager to return to our schools full-time. We're very hopeful with our numbers decreasing and with our teachers and so many others within our community receiving vaccines and all of our new safety measures in place that we will be safe and ready to return to our classrooms full-time. The kids have so much enjoyed seeing their peers and teachers in person. So much of their development comes from direct interaction. When you are distant learning from home, there is so much disconnect and their motivation for school drops. They become less confident and more unwilling to learn. They thrive on the face-to-face interaction with their teachers. Sorry, I lost my place. They see the joy and teachers bring and they feel more comfortable. Our youth need to be back in real school. They are our future leaders, our future doctors, future first responders. They are our future teachers. They are the ones missing out and hurting the most from this crisis. Please, if you really in your hearts have the best interest in these kids, please give them back the opportunity to succeed in this ever-changing world and give them the best chances when we face the next crises. Please consider going back to school full-time. Our youth is depending on us. Thank you, Stephanie Howard, Braden Howard, 12 years old, and Mason Howard, 10 years old. The next is from Michelle Allen. She writes, I am writing to you to request that the TTOSD board add the topic of moving the 5th grade students back to Tahoe Lake Elementary School and Kings Beach Elementary School for the 2021-2022 school year to their March agenda. I am the parent of a 2nd grade student who struggles with emotional regulation and social interactions. He thrives in the elementary school setting because of the emotional support he receives from the compassionate and patient teachers and staff at Tahoe Lake Elementary. I fear that he and other students will suffer severe mental health problems if they are put in a middle school setting where they are expected to be more mature and where the teachers are unable to provide the nourishing setting that is more typical of elementary school setting. I worry that with the current pandemic and the time that these students have spent in distance learning and away from the supportive teachers, that these effects will be even more severe. I'm sure that you're all aware of the mental health problems students experience, and this has been exacerbated by the pandemic. Suicide rates have skyrocketed, and I think our youngest students need our help now to give them the extra time and attention they need. We can start by bringing our 5th grade students back to Tahoe Lake and Kings Beach Elementary Schools. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. I hope you will consider this topic at the March meeting. Sincerely, Michelle Allen, Tahoe Lake parent and Tahoe Lake PTO president. The next is from Jennifer Beseda, Glenshire mom. Please update the community on the status for getting elementary kids back in school 5 days a week. Please update the community on the status for getting elementary, sorry, I repeated there, with longer days now that the virus is spreading less in our community and now that teachers are vaccinated. It seems to me that the community has been very patient, waiting for schools to be brought to the highest safety levels possible, and now the teachers as well. These elementary age children need to be back in school full time. The current in-person hybrid level of teacher-led learning is just 25% of previous standards. This is unacceptable and hurting kids. The lack of engagement, lack of structure, lack of challenging academics, they are deteriorating emotionally due to the situation, and I worry that the impacts will be long-lasting within my family and in the larger societal context. There must be some accountability by the district to address this massive learning loss and the burden put on families and children. Sincerely, Jennifer Beseda. The next comment is from Curtis Kane, and he says, I'm requesting that schools reopen immediately. The next comment is from Sonia Henry, and she says, Dear Board of Directors, educators, and administrators, first I would like to thank all of you for your hard work and determination to return to the hybrid model of in-class learning. Second, how incredible that our district is now vaccinated as of Friday. I was one of the 8 registered nurses who administered the vaccines, and the room was full of an array of emotions. Most of what I felt was relief and excitement for a more normal way of life. Third, when will we be going back to a normal school week? Our students have suffered long enough in distance learning and a small amount of in-person learning. Please make it the #1 priority to advance the school schedule so that all students have a fair and equitable opportunity for education. Please present the timeline and communicate the plan for reopening as soon as possible. I speak from personal experience. My kids need to be in school to learn at a normal pace. My 5- and 8-year-old do not work well independently, and my husband and I work full-time. On the other days, we are able to help. They get more out of it, but the days we don't, they both suffer. Again, Thank you for working so hard to get our kids back to a normal school day as soon as possible. Sonia. The next email is from Sarah Bradford. She says, Tahoe Truckee Unified School District Board members, please accept this request to open our school district to 100% in-person learning. I'm the parent of 2 elementary school students in the district. What other requirements or benchmarks need to be met in order to open? We have not received clear direction on what is required. With our teachers and staff now receiving their second vaccine dose this Friday, what are we now waiting on? If parents do not want the schools to open, they have cohort C option. Those parents who have their children in cohort A and B want school to reopen. Please publish the numbers, percentages of enrolled students who are in cohort A and B versus C. This should be public information. Our children and parents are suffering mentally, emotionally, and physically. Families are suffering financially. We have several more months of school for the year, and our children deserve to be in person and have the opportunity to learn, to socialize, and grow. We're almost a year at home. Willis, other school districts, and private schools locally are back full-time. If our school district cannot take action, I am looking into alternative schools that are open for the coming year. Please reopen our schools and allow our youth to start to thrive again. Thank you for your consideration, Sarah Bradford. The next is from Kristen Ginn, first grade parent, and she says, I think to bring back 5th grade to Tahoe Lake Elementary is a great idea, and I fully support it. The next comment is from Carrie Payton, kindergarten and 3rd grade mom at Tahoe Lake Elementary, and she says, hello. I'm writing to spotlight the issue of 5th grade in the district returning to Tahoe Lake Elementary School. There was momentum in the district prior to COVID to return 5th grade to Tahoe Lake, and I would like that momentum and attention to return to this important issue. My hope is that the district leadership and the board are simultaneously working on COVID mitigation and the post-COVID plans in our schools so that we can rebound from this interruption in our kids' education as successfully as possible. The previous relocation of 5th grade to North Tahoe Middle School campus seemed to be an accommodation based on lack of space, not what is best for this age group. We no longer lack that space, so let's do what's appropriate and in the best interest of the kids now for the 2021-2022 school year. I'm advocating for this change even more now since our children have experienced such a loss of learning and the benefits that a nurturing elementary campus offers. Please do not force them to adjust to even more challenges before they are emotionally and academically ready. Returning the 5th grade to the Tahoe Lake campus will elevate the social and educational experience for the 5th graders. These students deserve to be at their elementary school for their final year where they have all the age-appropriate resources. From my perspective, they are somewhat on an island at North Tahoe Middle School campus, having only one another as peers since they are not fully integrated with the middle school. The transition to middle school is difficult enough. Why are we fast-pacing that transition by pushing our 11-year-olds to be on campus where they're exposed to students who are much older and much more mature? The nurturing and supportive environment at Tahoe Lake Elementary will only increase the confidence and preparedness of our 5th graders when they do need to make the transition to middle school. Thank you for your serious attention to this issue. Okay, this is from the same parent, and she's still within the 500 words. Hello, I would like to request that the district regularly communicate at a minimum each week the plan to reopen our 5 days a week, the plan to reopen our schools 5 days a week now that all our teachers have had the opportunity to be vaccinated. The cadence of communication has been somewhat slow and irregular. Please provide transparent weekly updates moving forward on the status, progression, plans, and timeline to reopen the schools 5 days per week. A monthly public meeting is not a sufficient status update. And that's also from Carrie Patton at Tahoe Lake Elementary. The next comment is from Liz Bowling, parent of 2 TTUSD students, kindergarten and 4th grade. And she says, I'm submitting public comment to the TTUSD Board of Directors as a concerned parent and community member. While I appreciate the many lengths TTUSD teachers and district staff have taken to open schools in the hybrid model, it is simply not enough for the mental well-being and academic progression of students. Schools need to reopen at full capacity 5 days a week, full-time. Emphasis added, it's bolded in. The path to reopening has included expanded safety measures that adhere to physical distance guidance, mask wearing, and hand washing protocols, along with the installation of air ventilation systems to keep everyone safe. These same precautions have kept pilots, flight attendants, and airline passengers safe, despite a smaller space and higher density of people congregating in one area. Many schools across the country, even in our own state, have reopened in full capacity safely. Ttusd teachers will receive the second dose of the vaccine on Friday, February 26th, and per the Centers for Disease Control, they are now 90% to 95.6% protected against the virus. That means that by Monday, March 8th, schools should reopen 5 days a week to students. The data supporting schools reopening in full capacity is substantial. Students who once thrived in school environments are struggling at home without the social aspects that in-person learning can provide. The Center for Disease Control reports that emergency room visits related to mental health emergencies have grown, up 24% for kids ages 5 to 11 and 31% for kids ages 12 to 17. The Washington Post reports that Teen Line, which is a helpline for teenagers, has been flooded with calls since the pandemic. Our teenagers are struggling with relationships, and there has been a big increase in teens who are thinking of and experimenting with self-harm. A growing body of research indicates that distance learning is especially difficult for elementary-age students, widening learning and achievement gaps. A lack of social interaction that grade school-age children rely on means their social-emotional development is at risk. School environments are supposed to build a community and provide a sense of safety, and that cannot happen to the degree it needs to in the hybrid model. The Center for Research on Educational Outcomes at Stanford University calculated a COVID slide that totals between 57 and 183 days of learning loss in reading and 136 to 232 days of learning loss in math. That's spring 2020 data. Glitchy software and poor internet connections leave students frustrated and filled with anxiety about virtual learning. If TTUSD continues in hybrid only, what are the plans for summer learning programs? Private tutoring, extended school years. How will you provide solutions to address the learning gaps? How is mental health being addressed among students beyond virtual counseling sessions? How will teachers be able to enforce grade standards that are no longer developmentally appropriate? The return to school full-time must be available for families and students in the Tahoe Truckee community. Children will be affected by this pandemic for years to come. Learning loss, depression, and anxiety increases, and lack of socialization is detrimental for our students. And we're over 500 words now. That was Liz Bowling. The next comment is from Kate Shaw. She says, I'm writing as a Tahoe Lake Elementary School parent in support of bringing the 5th grade class back to Tahoe Lake Elementary from North Tahoe Middle School. There is a huge age and development gap between 5th graders and 7th and 8th graders. Arguably, a 10-year-old would benefit from being the oldest in the school at the elementary school rather than the youngest at the school, particularly where there is such critical emotional and physical development taking place between the ages of 10 and 13. The benefit to all students at Tahoe Lake Elementary is undeniable, and I hope the board gives this matter serious consideration. That's from Kate Shaw. The next is from Lindsay Lewis. She says, greetings. Our family would love for the 5th grade to be brought back to Tahoe Lake Elementary. It would be most beneficial to our daughters and secondly to our family with driving the girls to school. Thank you. The next comment comes from Aaron Abraham. Hi, Carmen and the TTUSD Board of Trustees. I would like to make the following public comment. Thank you, smiley face. Thanks again for your continued support of our kids and community in these challenging times. Our community is here to help support TTUSD. This comment is to reinforce that we must continue to make forward progress towards a 5-day-a-week school and a return to youth sports. TTUSD followed the science and trends to move to in-person school against the wishes of some a month ago. This has proven to be the right decision, as we see a continued decline in cases in the midst of a return to in-person school. It's now time to carry that momentum to the next step, closer to normality. The last several weeks have shown that our schools can operate without an additional risk to our kids, teachers, and community as a whole. Please continue to make strides to get these kids back to in-person 5 days a week. It is so important for the health and safety of them and our community. For those families that do not feel safe returning back to school, they still have the option to learn remotely. Schools across our country and world have shown that this can be done, as many school districts have been back to school since last fall in a safe manner. Please continue to follow the science and data on this front. Please avoid the trap of those in California that are using our kids as a political tool to further their agenda. It is also important that our community tries to maintain our decades-long relationship with Nevada youth sports. Due to geographical location, commerce, business relationships, workforce commutes, leisure travel, etc., our community is much more tied to Nevada than the Sacramento area. It's much safer for our kids and community to participate in Nevada sports leagues than to participate in Nevada sports league play than travel over the hill to Sacramento for games and practices. We're not trying to circumnavigate California youth sports, only state that we are part of Nevada more than we're a part of Sacramento. I think it's time we start prioritizing the health and safety of our local community versus taking the lead from county state officials who have no vested interest in our area apart from a resort destination. It's frustrating to see tens of thousands of out-of-town, out-of-state visitors in our community weekly to ski, while our kids are unable to attend school full-time or recreate outdoors like our Nevada brethren 30 miles away. It is truly unfortunate that teachers' unions, lobbyists, and special interests are dictating the California Department of Public Health guidelines versus using case studies of the other 40-plus states that have shown that youth sports and full-time school do not add any additional risk to the community. Please let us know how the backbone of this community can help TTOSD continue its further forward progress. Thanks for listening, Aaron Abraham. The next comment is from Jill Hall-Kossman and Kip Kossman. They say, we would like to request that Tahoe Lake Elementary bring the 5th grade back to the school. I believe that 5th graders should be in elementary school and then move up at 6th grade. Thank you. The next email is from Corey and Wes Allison. They say, Dear Board of Education trustees and Superintendent Chief Learning Officer Geisels, we are the parents of 3 Tahoe Lake Elementary students, currently a 1st and 4th grader, and our youngest will start kinder next year. We are writing to voice support for the idea of keeping 5th grade at Tahoe Lake Elementary starting with the 2021-2022 school year. 5th grade is considered part of elementary school in virtually every other school district in the nation, including the Truckee elementary schools. While it made sense there was a shortage of room to move 5th to North Tahoe, with the new school, it would be so great to have them stay. Our family is so excited about the new school, and although there were delays, we were always supportive and felt like it was worth the wait. With everything the kids have gone through and missed in the last year, we would love for our 4th grader to have one more year at Tahoe Lake Elementary. We also understand that with everything that has gone on this year, it could be a big ask, but appreciate your time to consider it. Sincerely, Corey and Wes. One sec. The next letter is from Eric Zeriner. And he says, Dear TTOSD Board, I'm writing to voice my request and support of keeping next year's 5th grade class at Tahoe Lake Elementary. As a parent and current 4th grader, Quinn Zeriner, I have a very real and personal reason for this request. But in addition to that, I would like to add these points for your consideration. Quinn is our oldest daughter, so choosing a school to enroll her in was a new experience for us. As you know, we are fortunate to have multiple options in our area from which parents choose. Creekside, T, Sells, and for us, the choice between Tahoe Lake or Kings Beach Elementary. As new parents, we did not take this decision lightly, nor did we have any bias or preconceived notions going into the process. We visited and toured each of the schools listed previously and met with the principal and teachers. When touring Tahoe Lake, we learned about the curriculum and the focus on math and science. This focus, coupled with the teachers we met, the principal, Mrs. Fochek, and the overall vibe, culture, and environment was extremely positive for us. We included Quinn in every step of this process. She toured each school, met the people, etc. Her voice was 50% of the decision, and her reaction to Tahoe Lake made it very clear which school was her first choice. We couldn't have agreed more. Tahoe Lake it was. Of course, the renovation and move to Rideout was discussed during our tour, and we all know how that timeline turned out, but that it was unforeseen at the time of our decision. While the relocation definitely played a factor in the decision, we felt confident in the decision knowing that returning to the new facility would offer Quinn enhanced opportunities that she wouldn't be afforded at the other schools. This was worth the sacrifice in our minds. In addition, we knew that our decision would affect our newborn at the time. We knew our decision would affect our newborn at home and her education path. Fast forward to today, and Quinn has spent a total of 180 out of 720 days in the Tahoe Lake Elementary School building, her kindergarten year only. This does not take into account this fourth grade COVID year. The reasons for the delayed renovation were unforeseen. COVID was unforeseen, both out of anyone's control. What isn't out of our control is offering these kids the opportunity to be elementary students again. COVID wiped out their fourth grade. Not only the in-person learning, but also the social development that goes with interacting with classmates and schoolmates as one of the older kids in the school. Developmentally, they haven't experienced being a fourth grader and all of the social lessons that go along with that. This is as much a part of the educational process as reading, writing, math, and science. By moving these kids to the middle school next year, we are essentially moving students at the third grade level of social development and placing them in a middle school environment. This seems ill-advised and unnecessary, and we'll redact the rest over the 3-minute limit, and that's from Eric Serenner. The next comment is from Katarina and Jorg Tonnet. They have a kindergartner at Tahoe Lake Elementary. Good evening, everyone. Please bring fifth graders back to Tahoe Lake Elementary and Kings Beach Elementary. There is sufficient room at both schools after renovations being completed. Sincerely, Katarina and York. The next email comes from Kim Bojane. I'm sorry if I messed that up. Sorry, Kim. She says, I believe that fifth grade should be at the elementary school, not the middle. Quite frankly, if the middle school keeps fifth grade, I'll be homeschooling my child. The next email is from Heather Manzi. She says, I'm writing to support bringing fifth graders back to elementary schools at Tahoe Lake Elementary and Kings Beach Elementary. It is my understanding that the transition of fifth grade to North Tahoe School was intended to be temporary. With the construction of the elementary schools complete, it's time for the fifth grade to return to the elementary school. When the time comes, I'd prefer my child attend fifth grade at an elementary school. Thank you for your time and attention, Heather. The next email comes from Adriana Bermudez. She says, to whom it may concern, I would like to let you know that I support the fifth graders to stay at Tahoe Lake Elementary. Truly, Adriana. The next is from Matt and Kim Heslin, and they say, to the boardroom, as parents of the past Tahoe Lake Cub, Ryan Heslin, sixth grade, and a present Cub, Bryce Heslin, first grade, we are writing in hopes that for the 2021-2022 school year and beyond, that the fifth graders return back to Tahoe Lake Elementary. We feel that as 10 and 11-year-olds, they're still quite young, and that it is appropriate to have them in an elementary school rather than a middle school. Entering middle school can cause apprehension for young adolescents who may face cognitive, physical, social, and emotional changes. In addition, we've read some research that fifth graders perform better in a K-5 environment than they do in a middle school environment with older kids. We hope you can understand our position and take it into consideration. Sincerely, Matt and Kim. The next email comes from Heather, and she says, sorry, I just thought it was a repeat. Hello, Ttusd board. Thank you for all you are doing for our students in a trying year. My name is Heather, and my husband and I have 2 children at Tahoe Lake today. One is in first grade and the other is in fourth grade. I'm writing to voice my strong belief that the fourth grade should stay at Tahoe Lake for the 2021-2022 year and beyond. This class specifically has been in a situation where they have not been able to be in school for a year. This has meant they have missed a year of direct in-person education as well as the mental, physiological, and spiritual growth that occurs when they are with their teachers, friends, and peers. I'm convicted that they are not ready for a move to middle school when they I am convinced that they are not ready for a move to middle school when they essentially stopped in-person education in third grade. For future years, the same will not apply exactly, but allowing the children to have one more year of development in an elementary school setting will only allow for slower and more focused growth. Lastly, the Tahoe Lake school building is exceptional, and one of the main reasons why we chose Tahoe Lake. It would be an incredible learning opportunity and gift for these fourth graders to be able to experience learning in this school for 1 year since all the others were missed. Thank you for your consideration and supporting the children in our community with this decision. Heather. The next is from Dr. Kinney 134. And Dr. Kinney says, hello, I would like to show support for bringing the fifth graders back to Tahoe Lake Elementary. As the mom of a fourth grader, I would love for my daughter to have a chance to grow and thrive at this new beautiful school for another year before moving on to middle school. Next email is from Quinn. Dear School Board, hi, it's Quinn. I'm a fourth grader at Tahoe Lake and would love for fifth grade to be at Tahoe Lake next year. My reasons are because I haven't really been at the new school for too long. Another reason is the teachers there are really kind and sweet. Thank you, Quinn. The next email is from Jamie Brown. Dear Mrs. Geisels, I'm reaching out today to express my concern for our fourth graders that will be entering fifth grade the next school year. Myself and every current Tahoe Lake Elementary parent of a fourth grader that I know feel strongly that our children deserve to stay at Tahoe Lake Elementary to complete fifth grade. So much has been taken from our kids over this last year. Going through a devastating and isolating pandemic during this formative time in their lives will surely have a lasting impression. The very least we can give our kids is the support of being at a school with staff and a student body, that is familiar and comforting to them. These children are nowhere near ready to be sent off to a brand new school with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders after spending most of their school experience since March sitting behind a Chromebook doing distance learning. Please, please consider letting our fourth graders return for another year at Tahoe Lake. We love this school and its teachers, and so do our kids. Sincerely, Jamie Brown. The next email is from Heather Schick, and she says, hello there. I have a daughter in the 4th grade at Tahoe Lake Elementary, Jasmine Schick. I'm writing to express support and urge the board to make time to properly consider bringing 5th grade back to Tahoe Lake Elementary. I understand the research project was underway prior to COVID and that has been tabled with a high likelihood our kids will be forced into the high school campus for 5th grade. Here's why our 5th graders belong in an elementary school. First bullet point. 2020-2021 didn't provide the 4th grade class with a full year of learning development. As a result, they are behind emotionally and socially at best. Our students this year are less prepared than ever to step into a high school campus or mingle with 8th graders. Bullet point 2. Emotionally, a 5th grader isn't ready to have interaction and exposure to junior high and high schoolers. 7th and 8th grades are trying and awkward times emotionally, and a 5th grader shouldn't have to be exposed to the distraction. Third bullet point. Socially, a 5th grader shouldn't be exposed to the 8th grade experience with peer pressure to explore the range of issues from sexual development to independent rule-following decisions on social conduct, drugs, etc. Bullet point 4. Physically, a 5th grader is much more aligned to the games and pace of a 4th grader versus an 8th grader. Mixing 5th with 8th likely exposes them to increased bullying and physical harm. Bullet point 6. Academically, a 5th grade experience should be structured in a way more aligned with 4th grade versus 8th grade to align to proper academic pressure for their age group. Our kids have way too much pressure to perform at high levels these days as it is, contributing to skyrocketing rates of depression and self-esteem issues. While I appreciate the curveball of COVID has forced our focus on logistics, you owe it to our children and your students to step up the challenge, multitask, and make it the right decision to pull the 5th grade back to Tahoe Lake Elementary. We are all in the same boat and have had to take on more than we ever thought possible to both survive and thrive, including acting as teachers to our kids while we managed our new normal professionally and personally. I expect the same stretch capacity from this district. Thanks in advance for doing the right thing. Heather. Dear Board, this next comment is from Victoria Ralston. And she says, Dear Board, I'm a parent of 2 children at Tahoe Lake Elementary, one 1st grade and one 4th grade. I would like to have the 5th grade stay at Tahoe Lake Elementary. It makes sense to have the 5th grade students remain in elementary school and for the middle school to begin in 6th grade. I wholeheartedly support having the 5th grade at Tahoe Lake Elementary beginning next year and continuing into the future. I hope you'll greatly consider this option and decide that it's the correct decision. Sincerely, Victoria. The next email is from Jen Reagan, and she's a concerned parent and chair of the Tahoe Lake Elementary Site Council. She says, "Dear Board of Trustees, I'm writing to you concerning bringing the 5th graders back to Tahoe Lake Elementary. Currently, these kids are in a sort of limbo at the middle school. They're in a school where they aren't actually afforded the benefits of being in that school. No lockers, no dances, no school sports. The middle school is running out of room to accommodate these kids, but with the renovations at Kings Beach Elementary and Tahoe Lake Elementary, there's plenty of room to bring them back where they belong. These 5th graders are also at an age where academically, socially, and emotionally, it can be pretty easy to start on a downward trajectory that may go unnoticed at a school with older kids who have pretty big problems, vaping, drinking, sexting, etc. Let's keep these kids just that, kids, as long as possible, by moving them back to a school where they won't be exposed to the aforementioned problems at such a pivotal time. It seems especially important now that our kids have barely seen a classroom in the last 11 months to keep them in a more nurturing environment of Tahoe Lake Elementary. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, Jen." The next email is from Corey Riley. They say, "Hi, I 100% agree with the 5th grade going back to Tahoe Lake Elementary." The next email is from Jessica Portnoy, a parent of a 2nd and 4th grader at Tahoe Lake Elementary. "Dear TTUSD Board and Superintendent Geisels, first off, let me thank you all for your hard work and commitment to our schools and our kids during these very trying times. There was a topic that was of very high importance to my family and many others in the Tahoe Lake Elementary extended family prior to this pandemic, turning everything upside down. We appreciate very much that this very exciting prospect of keeping our 5th graders at Tahoe Lake is returning to your attention. Prior to the pandemic, we showed our strong desire for this to happen, to give our kids another year in the age-appropriate environment for them to grow and learn. Since then, our new school with increased capacity has finally opened, and we feel it's ready to accommodate the 5th grade. I understand there are staffing and other logistics behind the scenes to factor in, but we know our principal, Stephanie Focek, supports this decision as well, and we have all the faith in the district's ability to reallocate staff or add positions to make this work. Our 4th graders and all students have barely been in school for what is almost exactly 1 year. And as you know, they have missed out on critical social and emotional development opportunities with their peers. And while we know that teachers are doing everything they can to keep students learning at grade level, it's not the equivalent, and they are behind in their learning. So while I was already in support of keeping 5th grade at Tahoe Lake before the world turned upside down, it's now even more important that these kids get another year at their amazing elementary school. Please make this a reality for them, and we would be so very grateful. Thank you for your time and consideration, Jessica Portnoy." Next email is from John Bachmeyer. Apologize. "Dear board members, I'm writing you today in regards to the 5th grade classes being held at the middle school or at Tahoe Lake Elementary School. As a father of 2, a current 5th grader at the middle school and a kindergarten, I'm deeply passionate about keeping the 5th grade at Tahoe Lake Elementary. I believe Tahoe Lake offers a great learning environment and also a chance for these 5th graders to ease into the transition of going to middle school. Please let me know if you have any other questions or concerns. Thank you very much for your time. John." The next email is from Lauren Chory, and she says, "Hi there. I'm sure you're flooded with emails about this, but I'm emailing to help encourage the 5th grade to be located at the elementary school. I saw some pretty big changes in my older son within days of him attending the middle school in 5th grade. These were changes I think would have been appropriate had he been a little older. Not sure if it could work logistically, but I as a parent would love to see it happen. Lauren." The next email is from Lynn Downer, and she says, "To whom it may concern, my name is Lynn Downer, and my daughter is currently 2nd grade at Tahoe Lake Elementary. My family has been part of the Tahoe Lake family since 2011. I want to write a brief letter to voice my opinion on reintroducing 5th grade into the Tahoe Lake Elementary School. We feel very strongly that 5th graders
will fit in an elementary school setting much better than a middle school. At such a young age, we feel the move to a new school with much older kids is unnecessary. We feel the kids will thrive and feel more comfortable staying in the surroundings they're used to being in. Since the new remodel of Tahoe Lake Elementary, it seems there will be more than adequate space to accommodate the fifth graders. I appreciate your time and consideration in this matter. If there's anything further I can do to have our opinion be heard, please let me know. Sincerely, Lynn. The next email is from Eric Mattis's, and it's Kenzo's dad. Dear board members, my son has gone to TK and kindergarten at Tahoe Lake. We have waited with great anticipation for the new school to open. No one could have predicted such an awful virus. Please allow my son to go to fifth grade and enjoy the new beautiful school we created for him. Thanks, Eric. The next email is from, it's going to be longer than, it's from Tara Morrissey, and I'm sorry, Tara, I'll read until your 500-word limit. Dear Stephanie Focek, I first want to thank you for allowing us as parents and community members to reach out and voice our concerns. I had the great honor yesterday of touring Tahoe Lake Elementary while still under construction. Wow, was it amazing. I'm so proud that the small town that I grew up in will be able to provide such a beautiful facility for my children and the future kids of North Lake Tahoe. I want to focus on the kids, because in all my understanding, our school district has always put the kids first. What is best for our fifth grade students? To me and 100% of the people I speak with, the answer is easy. The kids belong back at elementary school. They are 10 years old. They are still so young and innocent and are still figuring out right from wrong and want to play on playgrounds and chase each other around. They need a safe environment to be free to mature at a reasonable rate and not be thrown into the more developed and mature state of the older middle schoolers. They need to feel like the, quote, big kids on campus, so their confidence explodes before, as we all remember that they go to the weird, awkward dramas of the dreaded, quote, middle school years. I understand all that is currently in place to separate the older kids from the fifth graders, but it's still not good enough. What is right for the 10-year-olds to be at an elementary school that is totally set up to accommodate them? I'm sorry, what is right is for the 10-year-olds to be at an elementary school that is totally set up to accommodate them. I'm so happy that there was a place for fifth graders the last few years, but now that Tahoe Lake Elementary has the space, it seems completely ludicrous to not immediately put them back to their rightful school and place. We have waited long enough and have been put through chaos the last 3 years while Tahoe Lake Elementary has been under construction, and I do feel very strongly that the children have been gypped out of their rightful elementary experience, and immediate changes need to occur to get it back on track. I've heard the plan is to wait for the 2021 school year to bring fifth grade Tahoe Lake. Why in the world would we want to upset and stir up these kids, the school, and the teachers 2 years in a row? If it is going to happen, which is better? It needs to happen when Tahoe Lake Elementary reopens to our community in the fall of 2020. The few very frivolous excuses I have heard at why the wait for 2021 are counselors from North Tahoe School will be displaced, or there would not be adequate counselors left at North Tahoe School. I do understand that is a problem, but what is best for the kids? If we are truly acting with the intentions to do what is best for the kids, then this minor problem with the counselors and staff needs to be addressed sooner and later and figured out. And I'll redact the rest over 500 words. The next email is from David Polovy. He says, good evening, President Zurek and board members. My name is David Polovy, and I'm a parent of a sixth grader at Alder Creek Middle School, local business owner who has been open, operating, and interacting with thousands of random customers for the past 10 months. And finally, I'm a Truckee Town Council member. I speak this evening solely on my own and do not represent any other entity. I'm here today to urge you to get our students back to full-time in-person learning as soon as possible and no later than April 1st. I would like to compliment and commend you on the amazing work and efforts of the board, TTUSD staff, and all the teachers and everybody working in our school district that is put in over the past year during this unprecedented challenge and we have all been facing. As we start to round the corner and all TTUSD staff that wanted a vaccine were able to have access to one, It is now time to start returning to full-time in-person learning. I appreciate the hybrid model and believe it is a necessary step to getting the kids back full-time and getting everybody comfortable. I still believe it's woefully inadequate for active learning and engaged teaching. My daughter tells me often that the teachers have a very difficult time teaching both in person and virtually. The virtual learners often get forgotten. There are no cameras on, internet bandwidth is not this town's strong suit, and it's almost impossible to do this successfully, so it's nobody's fault. It's just time to move forward. It is safe for our kids and teachers to return to full-time schooling. One only needs to look as far as Western Placer County, all of Washoe County, Creekside Charter, and so many others that are currently holding full-time in-person learning. I sent Superintendent Geisels a link to a map on the San Francisco Chronicle website that shows exactly where our district can pull examples from in order to get this done. I also understand there are challenges with the school's unions and their agreements to get back to the classroom. The school district needs to insist that it's time to return to the classroom now, that employees are vaccinated. The TTOSD staff was prioritized for vaccines so that schools could go back to full-time in-person learning. Science has shown that kids are not spreading the virus. Hospitalizations and death rates have plummeted. The long-term effect of being out of school for this long is taking a toll and causing other social and mental health issues. It's time to stand up for the kids and bring them back to school. Please, direct your staff to move in this direction now. It is time and the kids are ready. Thank you for your service. It is difficult. It is very difficult and very much appreciated. Thank you. David. The next email is from Jenny Bond, and she says, hello, I am in full support of fifth graders returning to Tahoe Lake, and I hope to see the board address this soon. Also, now that the teachers and staff of Tahoe Lake Elementary will be fully vaccinated with the second COVID vaccine dose this week, when are we going to reopen our school to full-time in-person learning? There is no vaccine on the horizon for children in 2021, and many schools have been open for in-person learning with very little outbreaks. I feel it's time for our children to go back to school, and I've spoken to many parents who feel the same way. Enough is enough, and this COVID fear has dragged on long enough. It's time for the school district to put our kids back into school full-time, 5 days a week, in person. Distance hybrid learning is not working, and it is not the best we can do for our children. Children are distracted, unfocused, and spending hours on a computer every day. My daughter used to love school, and now she hates it. The distance learning option can be left available for families who have health concerns, but get our kids back in school in person. Triple exclamation point. Thank you, Jenny. Next email is from Julie Mattises, as she's a parent from Tahoe Lake. She says, good evening, T2SD board. Please add my name to the list of many parents wanting to return to the fifth grade to North Tahoe Lake Elementary. Our fifth graders are at a crucial point where key emotional and social input from their surroundings can have a profound impact on their cognitive development and growth. With this past year and all its challenges for our students, are all fourth graders at a mental place ready for even more challenges of mingling with middle and high school students? While I'm appreciative of all the academic successes from this past year during distance and hybrid learning, I can't say with confidence that this year's fourth graders are ready for such a big leap into fifth grade at North Tahoe. Please take into consideration the past year these children have had, academically, socially, emotionally, and developmentally. Thank you for your considerations. Warm regards, Julie. We're almost there. The next letter comes from, this is from Tahoe Lake PTO. And the Tahoe Lake PTO says, Dear TTOSD school board members and Superintendent Geisels, the Tahoe Lake Elementary Parent Teacher Organization Board would like our voices to be heard in support of bringing fifth graders back into our Lakeside elementary schools. Last winter, many Tahoe Lake parents sent emails to the district expressing this wish. Former TTOSD Superintendent Dr. Leary and the board decided to study the matter during the 2020-2021 school year and make a decision for the 2021-2022 school year. Understandably, this issue has not been able to be significantly addressed due to the overwhelming task of reorganizing and reopening schools. There are many of us parents that are wondering where the district and the school board stand on this issue. Tahoe Lake Elementary, Kings Beach Elementary, and North Tahoe School are not in line with other Ttusd district elementary and middle schools. Our Tahoe Lake principal, Stephanie Focek, supports bringing them back. In a March 2nd, 2020 letter to parents, Dr. Leary outlined that there were several issues that needed to be addressed, including position reallocations and supplemental funding to backfill positions, as well as staffing concerns. This letter notes that students are the focus of all our decisions and that the best interest of the students, we plan to consider this change carefully. As a board, we'd like to ask the school board and Superintendent Geisel, what is in the best interest for our students? What are the factors that the board and Superintendent Geisel are using to base your decision on? What is your plan and timeline for moving forward? We would like answers to these questions via email as soon as possible. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Kind regards, Tahoe Lake PTO. The next email is from Steph Maheda. Hi, I wanted to add my 2 cents. We are new to Tahoe Lake this year with our 4th grader. Would love the opportunity for him to attend Tahoe Lake for 5th grade as well, so he can experience full-time in-person schooling at this amazing facility. Best, Steph. The next email is from Matthew Sonka, and he says, hello, school board members. First off, I want to say thank you for your hard work during these difficult and strange times. I know the decisions you and the board have been making with school and COVID decisions have not been easy, so thank you for your work on all of this. Secondly, I want to introduce myself. My name is Matthew Sonka. I live in Carnelian Bay, California. I have a current 4th and 2nd grader at Tahoe Lake Elementary. We love the school. We love the teachers there. And we love the principal, Stephanie Focek. I would like to ask the board to consider bringing 5th graders back to Tahoe Lake Elementary. I think it would greatly benefit all 5th graders, both emotionally and educationally, to stay in the elementary school environment. Our newly renovated school can accommodate this expansion to 5th grade. Thank you for your time, and I hope and urge you to continue pursuing this elementary expansion and bring 5th grade to Tahoe Lake Elementary. Best, Matthew Sonka. The next email is from Amber and Jeff Kajanka. Sorry if I bungled that. They say, this email is to show my support in bringing 5th grade back to Tahoe Lake Elementary. There are many reasons why my husband and I feel this would benefit the kids. Most importantly, we feel staying at Tahoe Lake Elementary allows the kids 1 more year to mature and thrive in learning at a school they feel comfortable and safe in. I won't pretend to understand what it would actually take to make this happen or if it would truly help the development of the kids, yet from a mother's perspective, middle school can be the most challenging time for our kids. I certainly remember my middle school years. I would imagine the older they are, they will mature. They will have more time to build confidence in their learning, and finally have another year to strengthen important relationships with fellow students. We thank you for considering this important topic, and we're happy to answer any questions. Amber and Jeff. Next email is from Cindy Sparks Norbitas, and she says, Dear Ttusd school board members and Superintendent Geisels, in the best interest of all students, bring the 5th grade back to the elementary schools in the district. This important issue should be a priority discussion this year. I am the mother of a 2nd and 5th grader at Tahoe Lake Elementary and North Tahoe School. As a former middle school counselor and child advocate, I have had to work with children to mitigate the repercussions of unnecessary pressures they encountered socially, emotionally, and academically. These were challenges unique to the children that were forced to attend a middle school campus. But unlike our district's lakeside elementary schools, the district where I work did not have the capacity to house 5th graders at the elementary school. We do have the capacity, and yet we still have not heard when the 5th graders will be brought back to the elementary schools where they belong. Thank you for considering this serious matter, which impacts the health of these children in our community. Sincerely, Cindy. Next email from Rachel Heikman. Rachel says, hope you're well. Watching our kids transition from Tahoe Lake to North Tahoe Middle School as parents, we feel it would be beneficial to have 5th grade at Tahoe Lake. It's a big transition to middle school when you are in elementary age. Best, Rachel. Next email is from Angela Gardner, and she says, what is your anticipated date to return to 5 days a week? This is what families need and deserve to know. Telling us you're meeting next week is not being transparent. We have been very patient. Please give us an actual date. Thank you, Angela. Next email is from Jessica Catt, and she says, I wanted to take a minute and thank Superintendent Geisels and our school board for all their hard work. You have faced many challenges and obstacles in the past year, and I know you've worked hard at navigating these unprecedented times. I wanted to send this public comment after sending it as an email to our superintendent and school board. So I'm reaching out to discuss the matter of bringing fifth graders back to Tahoe Lake Elementary. Last winter, many Tahoe Lake parents sent emails to the district expressing this wish. Dr. Leary and the school board decided to study the matter during the 2020-2021 school year and make a decision for the 2021-2022 school year. Of course, that was before COVID-19 and all of the challenge that it is presenting. There are many of us parents that are wondering where the district and the school board stand on the issue. When can this issue be on a meeting agenda? In many ways, I feel the pandemic crisis has increased the need to keep the fifth graders at Tahoe Lake Elementary. It is inevitable that there has been and will be a learning loss for some students, despite all of the heroic efforts of our teachers and staff. They will need a more nurturing elementary school environment in these unprecedented times. It's imperative to their academic, social, and emotional well-being to delay this transition in the middle school, considering the lack of social and emotional interactions that we've all had to experience during the pandemic. In addition, the school took 2 extra years to complete, and with the significant loss of in-person learning, our students have basically not been able to utilize our incredible new science lab, music room, greenhouse, and all the other amazing features of our new building. The situation at the middle school is unusual both in and out of the district. We essentially have 2 separate middle schools and a high school all on the same campus. We need to bring the fifth graders back in regards to age-appropriate assemblies, curriculum, and district standards. This was an important issue for our schools prior to COVID, and it's even more crucial now that our fifth graders are able to spend an additional year in their elementary schools before being sent up to their middle school, where they are separated and feel a loss of school community, which is something that everyone is already struggling with. And they need it now, not in 2 or 3 years. In a March 2020 letter to parents, former Ttusd Superintendent Dr. Leary noted that he, along with school board members, were very interested in having fifth grade return to both Kings Beach and Tahoe Lake Elementary schools. The priority at the time was completing Tahoe Lake Elementary School upgrade. He further added that there were significant staffing and financial issues to tackle. He also noted that the district would plan to start a process in the fall of 2020 to consider the issue. I'm sorry, Jessica, the rest is redacted over the 500 words. And that's the last one.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton.
You're welcome.
Drink some water there. So, board members, any comments or questions on the superintendent's report?
I have a couple. The first one is regarding athletics, and then my, excuse me a sec. And then my second one is regarding fifth grade. Superintendent, you and Mr. Rivera talked about the practice field at ACMS. Could you touch on North Tahoe athletics opportunities that the district is considering so that the North Lake families can get an update as well, please?
I can speak to. Go ahead, Mr. Rivera.
Doesn't seem to be working.
No, it's
Oh, yeah,
it's
you're
working.
coming up here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, with regards to North Tahoe practice, right now we're still trying to find some solutions for that. One option may be North Tahoe Public Utility District fields, and occasionally they do remove snow off of their artificial turf, so we'll be looking at that. I'm going to contact the principals tomorrow and try to figure out if they've looked into any of those solutions.
Okay, thank you. And then with, regarding fifth grade, is my mic working okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so regarding fifth grade, I just took some notes because well, first of all, I'm very appreciative of the parent advocacy for the kiddos at Tahoe Lake and keeping them at fifth grade. I think it's amazing, and I think it's what we're supposed to do as parents, is advocate for our kids. I did not hear anyone from Kings Beach Elementary advocate, though I know there are families that have the same interest. And so my comment would be that even though I appreciate it, I just want to make sure that, you know, because we're on several months now with COVID and hybrid and now 5th grade and 5 days a week of getting emails telling us that we're not transparent, that we don't have the care for the students that we know we have. And so I just, you know, I want to address that because all of these issues as a parent are emotional, and you can imagine as a board the weight that they carry. And I'm sorry, I don't know where I'm looking for the camera, but it's an enormous year to be navigating this board. And, you know, I've had it kind of sweet. My first 4 years, no hot topics, and then COVID hit, and then everything else right behind it. But with 5th grade, I just want to, it's unfortunate, but some of the comments honestly were misinformed or uninformed. So I just want to address that to begin with. And then I also just want to remind people that there are many puzzle pieces, and we do want 5th grade. We absolutely want and are planning on having 5th grade back, not only at Tahoe Lake, but at Kings Beach Elementary. It's just, we want to do it right. Our district has a history of doing that, of doing what we think is best. And so we don't.
Can I interrupt you? I think it's inappropriate for us to be talking about this item as it has not been on the agenda.
President Zerk?
I think that's a good point. So if you,
It's underneath my desk.
so if you want to direct a question.
No, I don't have any questions. I understand exactly what the board is planning and what the district staff is working on behalf of our families and our students. I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Dee Dee, or?
I was just going to make a comment that I appreciate the fact that parents are actually willing to speak up, and I think that it's, I did make reference before that, you know, obviously sensitivity, but I think it's important that, that they do realize that we are listening and that we are hearing it all. I also, I really appreciate people doing it. I did notice that there was no one from Kings Beach, and I don't know what that deal was either, but I think that it's important that people realize that it is important for us to hear you. And I also do wanted to say that, you know, we are listening, and I think all of the input that people do give us in this public comment, and I want to thank Ed for reading them. We do listen to them, and it is heartfelt, all these comments that parents make, and I think I would just support continuing to do that. You know, obviously remembering that we are trying to work within some parameters, but please don't ever feel like you can't say anything to us. But I also want to say that thank you all for all of this crew for trying to put all this stuff on the table and make it work.
Sorry about that, Ed.
Okay.
My laptop's dying.
Your laptop's dying. I just want to comment, and Galen is correct that this is not an agendized item for us to consider. However, I so appreciate the leadership and the staff at North Tahoe School and the amazing work that they have done over the last 10 years in caring for and educating the 5th graders at North Tahoe School. They have gone above and beyond. So, enough said with that. But we have to be careful in our comments and how hurtful they can be to others. Okay, we're going to move on. So our next presentation, we get to hear a presentation about our Adventure Risk Challenge program.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Simpson will be leading this presentation, and it will cover the scope of the current work that Adventurous Challenge is doing with TTUS students.
Yes. Turn it on. Great. There we go. Thank you, Superintendent Geisels. I just get to introduce the group, and the first person I want to introduce, who will be introducing the whole group that's here, I'm very excited because it involves some of our students, and I know how much we love to hear from our students, so I'm very excited about that. So Tara House is our coordinator of English Learner Programs and Accountability, and she has been working with Adventure Risk Challenge and the newish program coordinator, Kayla Frank, and I just want to say this, I'm pretty sure the program started last year, and they've continued it this year, and one of the things that I don't want to steal their thunder. However, I also want to say that one of the reasons why we're able to do this is because of the amazing partnerships we have in our community. And I have been so excited, and I think Jeff probably sees it as well, is how we're able to take those partnerships and enhance programs for our students. And so I'm going to turn it over to Tara and her group and the students that everybody's been so patient. We're very excited that you're here. And thank you for being here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Val. Thanks, Superintendent Geisels. Thanks, board. It's great to see everybody. I am just here to really introduce Kayla Frank. I will say that we've been working all year together, and last year and the year before that, we worked with Kelsey Porter, who was in her position starting this whole collaboration with the goal of getting more TTUSD kids involved in ARC during the school year and over the summer. So I will present my screen, and Kayla will do the talking. Oops.
All right, thank you, Tara. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kayla Frank, and I'm the new program coordinator for Adventure Risk Challenge, or ARC, as of June 2020. Thank you so much for inviting me to give an update on our developing partnership with TTUSD and our programming in light of COVID-19. This has been a tough year, and we feel very fortunate that as a small organization, we have been able to adapt quickly to changing circumstances and continue to provide engaging and enriching experiential activities for TTUSD students, which seem to be needed now more than ever. Let's see. All right. So when schools closed due to COVID-19 last spring, we were uncertain if we would still be able to safely run our programming for summer 2020. We adapted by dramatically reducing the size of our course and developing a detailed communicable disease plan and protocol, which included pre-course health screenings with all students, COVID testing on arrival, and the use of PPE and physical distance until we received negative test results. By making these adjustments, we were able to run a 27-day course in Yosemite and Tahoe with 8 students, 5 of them from TTUSD. They called themselves Guerrerex, a gender-inclusive term for the warriors. Because we were isolated from other people, we were incredibly lucky to be able to spend 3 weeks building close community, developing leadership skills through backpacking and rock climbing, and improving literacy through reading, writing, and public speaking, which culminated in our annual Voices of Youth event, this year hosted virtually, where our students read original poems to an audience of over 250 people. I was a facilitator on this course, and considering the circumstances, it felt nothing short of miraculous. Next slide, please. Sorry. There's kind of a delay. All right, so it took us about a month to figure out how we might be able to deliver our Rising Community Leadership Program to TTUSD students during such a unique and unpredictable school year. Thanks to the leadership and vision of Assistant Principal Mr. Padilla and the support and collaboration of CCR 9 teacher Ms. Barker, We have been able to form a successful partnership with the GRIT program at North Tahoe High School. They have provided access and space for us to meet with 17 ninth grade students weekly. We are hopeful to be able to set up something similar at Truckee High School for next year. In the beginning, we were able to meet outside with masks and physical distance, but when the weather turned colder, we joined the CCR9 class for distance learning and hybrid sessions. So far, we've had over 300 student contact hours and focused our time on community building, identity development, and academic support, especially with writing and public speaking. At the end of our first semester, as part of our identity unit, our students each wrote a biographical poem and presented it to their peers. Tonight, one of those students, Isaac Pacheco, is with us to share his poem.
Hey guys, my name is Isaac Pacheco. I'm a freshman and I've known Kayla for about 4 months now, and I just want to say that she is an amazing person. She has helped me overcome many things, and I just know that she can be a trusting person, and I know that I can say that for almost everyone in my CCR 9 class. And she helped me a lot with this poem, so just reading it, I just want to put into perspective that Kayla really helped me with this, and I am really grateful for it. Isaac, one who is courageous, dedicated, and capable, sibling of 2 strong, hardworking people ready for success. The happiness that rushes over me after accomplishing my goals, the privileges I was given and obtained, and the calm, silent feeling of being alone are the little things that I love. I am feeling confident in myself and the direction I am going, while also proud of the goals I am accomplishing. The fear of truly being alone and self-deprecation of my accomplishments are constantly looming over me. My background and circumstances both heavily inspire me to become more than I am, than more than where these things try to place me. Moments I am proud of are when I keep my word and achieve my goals, both big or small. I will overcome the obstacles in my way to become what I love and be happy with the life that I lead, as I am in control. I am a sapling growing in the beautiful Lake Tahoe. I am a Chicano proud of who I am and who I will become. I am the writer of my own story, as I am Isaac Pacheco Martinez.
Thank you, Isaac, so much for sharing your poem. It's beautiful. So we've also continued to deliver a follow-up year of leadership programming for students who completed our summer course, totaling over 200 student contact hours. We have 3 TTUSD students who meet virtually every week as part of this program, and they will be eligible for a $1,000 academic scholarship as a result of their participation. These students continue to develop their leadership through a peer mental health training, activities for values clarification and goal setting, a StoryCorps interview project, and biographical narrative essay, and college advising. Later in the spring, they will be designing and facilitating an experience for the 8th grade GRIT students. The highlight of our year has been finding a way to continue to get students outside. We are lucky that we live in a place where nature is so accessible. Although I learned through my one-on-one check-ins with students that many of them are not getting outside except for these trips. In October, we offered group hikes to the State Line Fire Lookout and Summit Lake in Truckee for reflection and relaxation. In November, we took 13 TTUSD students to the Treetop Adventure Park in Tahoe Vista. They squealed with fear and delight as they climbed up into the trees and came flying down the zip lines. In December, we took 10 TTUSD students to ice skate at the Winter Sports Park in Tahoe City. For all of these students, it was their very first time ice skating, and there was a lot of laughter, slipping, and sliding. In January, we took 12 TTUSD students for skiing and snowboarding lessons at North Star, and we have another trip coming up there this weekend. Although it's not how we initially imagined our programming, it has felt like a real success. Our numbers are small, but the impact is big. Iran Pacheco, Isaac's older sister, participated in the summer 2020 cohort and remains active in our community leadership program. She wanted to share with you about how ARC has impacted her this year.
Hello, my name is Yoram Pacheco. I am an 11th grade student at North Tahoe High School. This summer, I had the honor of participating in the ARC program. I first heard about it through my vice principal in my freshman year. I remember feeling hesitant because I really wanted to spend my summer working. After discussing the situation with my older brother, we agreed that he would attend ARC that summer and I'd consider going the following summer. I was surprised when he came back as a different, happier person. He was more optimistic even in hard situations. He always wanted to be outside, and even his manners improved. The biggest change I saw was that he became more communicative and open to resolving conflicts. So, the summer after my brother attended ARC, I was ready for my own ARC experience. Through the program, I built 7 new amazing friendships that continue to grow. They helped me feel comfortable with who I am as an individual and taught me that true friendship is built, not just found. 7 years ago, an impactful situation in my life occurred. I was left with my 3 siblings in a broken relationship with my father, and I had to grow up and learn by myself as a woman. ARC created a space for us to share our stories with each other. When I learned that 2 other participants were in a similar situation, I discovered newfound feelings of empathy. I truly understood what they were going through and how hard it can be. We had a mutual understanding, making our connection stronger. Not only have I gained the ability to trust friends, but I also got the opportunity to open up and share my story with supportive instructors. Thanks to the little ARC family we created last summer, I was able to finally believe that there are people out in the world, outside of my family, that I can trust. Growing up, my mother taught us that only family is to be trusted and that anyone outside of it had only bad intentions or would deceive us at some point. Clearly this isn't the case, and because of ARC, I now have more help and support. This brings me comfort and relief. I no longer have to face burdens on my own. Because of ARC, I am a different person too. I am happier and more involved. I used to work every day during the summer following the same schedule at 3 jobs. I rarely had enough time for myself, and I often felt stressed and tired. I would have been in a similar situation this year had I not joined ARC. I used to feel sad and bored after finishing homework and work because I had nothing to do afterwards. But ARC organizes fun trips and activities such as ropes course, skating, skiing, and hiking. I used to be really nervous about taking risks, but through ARC I began to see the benefits. There's nothing like the adrenaline that comes from trying new things. Since ARC, I've tried and picked up on these new activities and even tried running early in the morning to get my day started. Being outside more and staying active has made me more energetic, focused, and happy. I believe now, more than ever, that life is just too short, and because of this, we need to explore, discover, and get out more. In addition to these activities, the weekly CL meetings are a joy to be a part of. I get to express myself without fear of judgment, say what's on my mind, and share my story. Now I have something to look forward to during the week and weekends. These things keep me busy, happy, and even hungry to do more for myself. I will not be getting tired of learning or exploring, and I owe that and so much more to ARC. The ARC program helped me become more confident in myself. I am no longer afraid to speak up about what I believe with my family members. I used to fear their judgment and disappointment, and now I'm more comfortable with who I am and the decisions I make. Through ARC, I learned to take responsibility for my actions, whether they be good or bad, which is huge for me, since I have struggled with these things in the past. Now, I realize that I get to choose the path I take. I learned, experienced, acknowledged, built, and found so much through this program. The skills I gained helped me become a better sister, friend, and leader for those around me. Thank you for letting me share my experience with you.
Thank you, Iran. It's so powerful to see our students grow through these experiences, and we are eager to grow our partnership with TTUSD in order to offer these experiences to more students in our community. We are starting recruitment for our summer 2021 programs, and we intend to run 3 courses in Yosemite, Sequoia Kings Canyon, and Tahoe Basin. We will be updating our COVID-19 policies and procedures throughout the spring to ensure that we are prepared to offer the safest experience possible for our students and staff. We seek applications from any high school student who is motivated to participate in our programming, which includes backpacking, rock climbing, English, leadership, and environmental science classes for elective credit, and an intense but rewarding community building experience. I will be leading the Tahoe course, which runs from July 5th to August 7th. We offer our program on a sliding scale, asking students to contribute a minimum of $1 per day, but we're able to provide also full scholarships. All equipment is provided and no experience is necessary. Our application deadlines are March 26th and April 23rd, and we can accept a maximum of 10 students per course. We're hoping to fill an entire course with TTUSD students so that they can all continue as a cohort the following academic year. Please help us get the word out to parents and students who would benefit from this program. They can contact me for more information or go directly to our website to apply. Thank you again for inviting me to present to the school board. We are grateful for your support and happy to share a little bit of good news with you tonight.
Yay, thank you so very much, Kayla and Iran and Isaac. That's the best thing I've seen in so long, I can hardly tell you. So thank you very, very much.
I want to
And
comment
Tara.
on that, Kim. That is we need more of this. So I appreciate you two students for doing that, because that is something that we as a board have totally missed. And I would say you guys sent it. That was awesome. And I would like to be on that team to teach.
So board members, do you have any questions for me or for Kayla about the partnership that we are embarking on with the ARC?
Questions? Galen?
Actually, I just wanted to jump in real quick to ask about your funding and how we can potentially explore ways to support you, because it really seems now more than ever you've really demonstrated the effectiveness of this outdoor education model. And in addition to that, we're going to have probably way more kids apply to the program that can get accepted, and that really feels sort of like tragic in a way. So I really just want to say, Isaac and Iran, your presentations were fantastic. Your eloquence, your articulation, and your ability to describe what really happens out there was really profound. So thank you both. And also thank you for your courage in sharing your story. That's not an easy thing to do. So you just gave us chills completely, and you need to feel good about what you just shared, because it was really almost an Academy Award level kind of thing. If I had one, I'd give you one. So yeah, let's just really make sure that your program is sustained and can potentially grow.
Any board questions? Other? Galen, I don't see it. Okay, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to move to our consent agenda this evening. We have 2 items. Does staff need to pull any of these items? Superintendent Geisels?
No, we do not, President Zerk.
Would any board member like to pull any of these items? No. Would someone like to move approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Lupita?
Yes, Member Levac,
Aye.
Member Hennessy,
Aye.
Member Driller,
Aye.
Clerk Larson,
Yes.
President Zurich.
Yes. Thank you.
you.
Next, we get to have a facilities program update.
Yes, we have our facilities director, along with Mr. Todd Rivera, George Rojas, who's going to be able to provide an update on our facilities projects, including those funded by Measure E and U bond program.
Thank you. I'll just do a quick introduction. So tonight we get an opportunity to celebrate all that we've accomplished with our facilities program. And this all started, as Superintendent Geisels mentioned, with the bond campaign for Measures E and U back in 2014. And since then, we have accomplished so much. And right now, at this point, we're at the tail end of our program. We've completed or very, very close to completing all of our major projects that we had planned. Our facilities are beautiful. I'd also like to highlight George Rojas, Director of Facilities Maintenance and Operations, and his entire facilities team that made this possible, especially this past year, working through the COVID pandemic in a very challenging time and making sure that we push forward with these projects. So with that, I'd like to introduce George and let him take it away and give us an update.
Thank you, Todd. Just a quick mic check. Everybody can hear me okay? Perfect. And then the presentation, I see it behind Dee Dee, so we will get started. But first of all, outstanding job to the ARC students. This is going to be really hard to follow that, so we'll do our best. So good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Geisels, Executive Cabinet, and also to the community members joining us online tonight. Again, my name is George Rojas. I am the Director of Facilities, Maintenance and Operations for the school district. And tonight I'll provide an update on the facilities bond program. So we'll begin tonight's presentation with the update on the Measure U program. Starting off, we'll look back at some of our past accomplishments over the last few years. To get started, on the 2015, the Quick Strike projects, we completed the Truckee High School track and restroom, Glenshire Elementary School parking lot reconfiguration. For 2016 projects, we completed the Alder Creek Middle School parking lot reconfiguration, the Glenshire Elementary School modernization, Sierra High School modernization, and also the Cells and District Office parking lot reconfiguration. And for our 2017 projects, we have completed the new maintenance warehouse facility, our Truckee High School West Wing and site work, Donner Trail Elementary School, new construction and modernization, and for our recently completed projects for 2018 and 2020, Truckee Elementary School new construction and modernization, Truckee Elementary School re-roof, which is a separate project, and Truckee High School Increment 2 modernization of the existing building, which we'll be highlighting throughout the presentation tonight. So in the last 5 years, very short years, the facilities department has managed the construction and oversight of expenditures totaling $219 million. That's for both Measure E and U. $137 million of the described amount has been allocated to Measure U. $116 million has been directly spent in construction, and the remaining costs are included in soft costs, which is about 15%. Where soft costs typically include professional and consultant fees, architectural fees, project management fees, and any agency permitting and fees that we have to pay. So again, a lot of work has gone into this program. I just want to take a quick second to thank all of our building partners, and especially our internal staff. These folks have worked tirelessly in the last 5 years, and that's to meet all of our goals. And again, that's to provide new facilities to our students and staff, and hopefully make the community proud of our facilities. So jumping back on the Truckee High School, Truckee High School was, let me start up again. Truckee High School was broken up into 2 separate increments. Increment 1 was completed in August of 2018. That included the expansion, the West Wing expansion. Increment 2 began construction in 2019, and that is the modernization of the existing campus. Now, we just recently completed this in November and December 2020. Our project architect was DLR Group, our internal project manager was Rob Coster, and our leasing spec entity was Core Construction. I'd just like to commend these folks. They did a tremendous job throughout the pandemic, especially during a mostly occupied campus, but all the difficulties that COVID also brought forward. These guys did a great job to meet our timelines. So we won't stay too long here in these older pictures, but it is good to kind of reference back what the school used to look like. So this is the condition before modernization projects. The school was originally built in 1950, and it had additions in 1958, 1965, 1972, 74, and also in 2006. You probably recognize a few of these pictures. The picture on the upper right-hand side, it used to be the old home ec room. Picture on the bottom left corner is the library, which definitely needed some updating. Picture on the upper left, you can see the old bus barn and the old site conditions, and the picture on the right-hand side is one of the existing science rooms. So again, the project was broken up into two separate increments. Increment 1 was the west wing. This was completed in 2018. Increment 2 was broken up into two separate phases. Phase 1 of Increment 2 was completed in early 2020, which included an administration and library expansion. Now for the second phase of Increment 2, this included the existing classrooms, girls' locker room, and we'll talk a little bit more about our current project. All right, so this phase included the Culinary Arts Lab, 10 general classrooms, the girls' locker room, an expanded band room, a new green room, just to highlight a few. Now, our last meeting, our last presentation and update was done in May 2020. So I just wanted to look back a little bit and share some of the pictures that we shared during that time. At that point, we were really heavy into demolition and also hazardous abatement of the existing campus. And what you can now see is a completed project. It's beautiful, it's inviting, and we're ultimately substantially complete on this project. So some of the work that went into this project, we completed a fire alarm system upgrades throughout the campus, 21st century technology. I know Ed really loves this piece. Voice amplification system, digital clock speakers, TV cards, mechanical upgrades, which included heating and cooling, new lighting, ADA access compliance throughout the interior and exterior of our campuses. Now, we also finalized the complete renovation of our girls' locker room, our band room, and also our green room. The girls' locker room included updates to finishes for safety, a dedicated coach and referee spaces, upgraded building snow loads. And for the band room, we did breakout practice rooms. We have 3 breakout practice rooms, dedicated equipment and music sheet storage. I didn't really quite understand how much room we needed for the sheet music. It does take a lot of storage for that, so it's good that it's in its own dedicated location, along with upgrading acoustic and the sound system. Now, here's some pictures of the Culinary Arts program. I showed you a picture of the home ec room, so it's really fun to look back and actually see what we have now in the future. This is no longer just a home ec room. This program will provide our students with the academic and technical skills, knowledge, and training necessary to succeed in future culinary careers. Now, our Finnish Library is open and inviting. This library creates learning opportunities for both small groups as well as individuals. As part of the library, there are 3 study rooms. You can see them on the picture on the left-hand side. These rooms are scheduled by the librarian just as you would to use as in college. The library also includes a teaching flex space, which is also used for special classes through the librarian. Now, as the project is coming down to a close, here's some additional pictures on the right-hand side. The upper picture is our wellness room. Picture on the bottom left is one of our finalized science rooms. And the picture on the right-hand side is one of the hallways, and what I wanted to highlight is one of the pictures there. It's a student photos. Logan actually had the students share some of their pictures. She did a contest, and we actually were able to put their pictures up on the walls as wallpaper. So we're showcasing what our students have done in photo class. So now, as far as closing out this project, I think we're basically substantially complete. We have a little bit more to do with commissioning, making sure we're fine-tuning all of our systems. We do have a few other items to complete, which is finalizing the Project GMP. If you remember, this is a lease spec delivery method. It's been extremely successful. We will do a complete memorandum of commencement, along some other legal documents that we'll be bringing to the board to close this project, and hopefully finalize the Division of State Architect certification. So now moving on to Measure E, which is our Lakeside program. Just to showcase some of the past accomplishments, From 2015 through 2020, we've completed Tahoe Lake Elementary and Kings Beach Elementary boiler replacement projects. We've also done North Tahoe School Gym re-roof, which you can see on the right-hand side. The new maintenance warehouse facility, which is a split between Measure E and Measure U funding. Kings Beach Elementary new construction modernization, which you can see on the upper left-hand side. And the recently completed Tahoe Lake Elementary new construction modernization, which I'll highlight later on in the presentation. Now on the lake side, we've completed about $82 million, 64 of that going to construction and the remaining going towards soft costs. So kind of looking back at Tahoe Lake a little bit more and highlighting the project. It was great to hear some of the comments from the parents as well. Now this project started construction in June of 2017, and we recently completed in September of 2020. Our construction manager is Core Construction, and our internal project manager is Kristen Helmer. I'd like to thank them for really pushing this project to successful completion and really working through all of the challenges this project had. So kind of looking back at the existing school site. Now this school was originally built in 1934 with additions in 1938, 1958, and also 1964. Our focus on this project included ADA access compliance and updates, reconfiguration of an administration, and the modernization and additions to the existing buildings. Some additional pictures just to share. The upper left-hand side, this is the old gym. The picture on the upper right-hand side was some of the ADA lifts that were in the existing campus. Picture on the bottom left, of course, the modulars, and picture on the right was some of the existing classroom finishes. Now, from our last presentation in May of 20th, I shared this picture just to show us progress. The areas that are 85% complete was most of the campus, and we had one area, which is a little auditorium in orange, which was a little bit farther behind due to the structural upgrades we were working on, and that was about 50% complete. Kind of quick pictures of what we had during that timeline. We were working on interior finishes, exterior walkways, and still some exterior structural upgrades at the little auditorium. So it's really nice today to just show you that everything is complete. We have a beautiful campus. It's newly reconfigured parking lot and much needed upgrades throughout our school. Upgrades throughout the school site included fire alarm system upgrades, 21st century technology, mechanical upgrades for heating and cooling, the new casework and storage throughout the campus, blinds, new lighting, flexible furniture, just to name a few. Now, one thing that we talked about earlier is one thing we really focused on was the accessible path of travel, just to make sure it was compliance throughout the campus. And we did this through the use of elevators, vertical lifts, and accessible ramps, and you can see those throughout some of the pictures here. Picture on the left-hand side shows all of the new access with handrails for areas that may have steeper curves than we want to have. Pictures in the middle show the actual vertical lifts, and the picture on the right-hand side is in the administration section, which is an actual elevator. So kind of some nice sort of neat pictures. So of course, I showed you the multi-purpose room and some of the major upgrades that have gone into this space. You can see there have been new lunch tables that are actually installed, new gym flooring and striping, heating and cooling. And one of the neat things, if you look at the background, there's an existing mural that used to be outside. During the expansion, we wanted to make sure to preserve this mural. This was done a long time ago by students. So we actually took a picture of it, we brought it inside, and we were able to duplicate it, and then now it is part of one of Stephanie's educational programs. The other piece is the reconfiguration of the kitchen and serving area. Before, there used to be a one door with one wing where the kids would walk up, and that was the serving area. So we were able to reconfigure the kitchen just so that we could provide proper path so the kids could actually come in, have a serving line, and then eventually make it out to the multi-purpose room for lunch. Now this was by far our most challenging project, and that's due to its age, location, and just overall complexity of the area. Now we've had to spend more dollars to address unforeseen conditions such as structural repairs, the waterproofing of structures, insulation, venting, and ultimately hazardous removal of hazardous materials. But as you can kind of see from the pictures, the final product is something we can all be proud of, while still maintaining the historical look of this beautiful school. So, now moving on to our last project on the lakeside. This is for North Tahoe School and High School. Our construction budget is $3.28 million for this project. Now we have spent a little bit of that doing the re-roof and technology projects that were outlined in the facilities implementation plan. So we have slightly less for the remaining portion of the project. Now, as priorities have changed, we'll be meeting with our school staff just to review their needs and just to take a look at this project once again. And hopefully, as we're wrapping up some of these other larger projects, we're hoping that there are some other project cost savings that we may be able to redistribute to this project. So hopefully by the end of this year, we'll start looking again at project feasibility studies, looking to get under contract with design teams and following the process to get out to bid hopefully next year. So with that, before I end, I just wanted to take a quick second to thank the community for really supporting Measure E, Measure U programs. It's been a long time coming. It's been about 5 years, but we really appreciate all the support. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
She has it on.
Thank you, George. Is that okay. Board questions?
In the homework, George, and I could be wrong or misread, did I notice somewhere, and I was trying to find the agenda, but did I read somewhere that, let me look. Was Sierra High somehow under Measure E? Did I misread that somewhere?
It was shared. It was shared, I believe.
It was shared? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Sierra High was shared as well as the main and operation building. Those were both shared between Measure E and U.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Galen?
No questions here. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. George and Todd and everyone, thank you so much. That was great. In-person tours as soon as we can, please.
Yes.
Please. And then Galen, I wanted to thank you for your diligence over the last 6 years working as the board member representative to the facilities group. And that was extra work related to that. Wow. What we did. That's pretty darn amazing. So thanks to everyone. It doesn't look like a prison anymore, Truckee High School. I was just saying that the other day. But all of our facilities match our amazing educational programs. So I'm super proud. So thank you, George. Thank you, Todd.
I just want to make a quick comment too, that I can't tell you how happy we are that there are so many completed parts on that, and I know it was a long time coming. But I think we should definitely, I don't know how you do a virtual party, but I think it's something that I think the public should really be everyone should know this for sure, that we're getting there. But I think it was nice to see all the completed. And I'm sure there is some sort of final, when you do a final board or bond program, that there are some balloons that get popped or something, but really psyched that it's done, and hats off for getting Core back in there to finish Tahoe Lake. And Kristen, I don't know if everyone knows this, but Kristen actually, who was the program or project manager, she actually moved to Tahoe. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty cool. I think it's awesome. But anyway, thank you so much for all that, and amazing team.
Perfect.
Well, and I just wanted to jump in real quick and say that in 2014, it felt like an eternity. It felt like an eternity when we saw the binders come out and we saw all of the incredible work. I felt like will we really live long enough to see these projects be completed? And here we are. And it's just profound. It's such a celebration to finally see these beautiful campuses. When I opened up the files today to prepare for this meeting, I was like, tears strolling down my face, just streaming down my face. I couldn't believe the images. And my own daughter, who's been on campus, just keeps telling me, oh my God, it's so beautiful. I can't wait for you to see it, Mama. And now I just saw the pictures for the first time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it actually is real. It actually did happen. And I think we need to thank Dr. Leary for the courage that he had in knowing that we could make this happen, and we never even believed it really could happen, and here we are literally seeing the results of all of this hard work. And thank you to the community for all of your incredible support and trust in us. We are beholden to you, and we will make sure we answer your requests. It's very evident that we have heard loud and clear what the community wants us to do, and I'm thinking that we need to make sure we are responding to that. And thank you, Mr. Rojas. You really deserve the crown of honor. You never gave up, and you really did stick with it. Even though we were going through a global pandemic, you still got these projects done. So I have no idea how you do it, but we are all so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we're going to go to our Educational Services Department and hear our student assessment data presentation. Superintendent Geisels.
Yes, our Executive Director of Ed Services will be giving a presentation to the trustees regarding our student assessment data update.
Too many things up here. Thank you very much. Okay, glasses, so I can. First of all, I just want to thank everybody the opportunity to be able to present this information. This is actually one of the first times that we've presented local assessment data in this way. And as you know, this past school year, our CASP testing was suspended for that school year. And so because of that, there was even more importance played on our local district assessments. And so that's where I'm going to spend our time, or my time today, sharing with you a comparison of how our students are doing, and go from there. So, okay, get over here. Okay, so I'm the one doing the slideshow. So how does it get up on the... What was that?
Are you in Google Meet?
Yes.
Okay, so just
Present.
Oh, shoot. Okay, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Hold on a second. I logged out of the Meet. Sorry. I was thinking it was going to show and I was still going to click it. Always a learning curve. Okay, join now.
This is our first day of hybrid.
Right? Okay, present. My tab. Okay. Present mode. Okay, here we go. All right, so I have my notes here. As I said, tonight I'll be presenting an overview of the beginning of the year assessment results. We lovingly call them BOY, as in boy. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to give this overview, and these are very important assessments that allow us to predict how students will do on high-stakes tests, such as CASP, monitor student learning and progress, and under the Renaissance Learning umbrella, there are some very valuable reports that educators can access that inform teaching and also can motivate students with their achievements and target areas for students to work on their to strengthen. So with that, it's important to note that many of the Our assessment system is a comprehensive system, and it aligns with our strategic plan. I actually was thinking it aligns in a lot of ways to all these different components, even facilities, because we need the internet and Wi-Fi in order to be able to administer these assessments. It also applies to our LCAP, and you'll remember that we have 3 LCAP goals currently. We're actually wrapping up the final year of the last 3-year cycle. You'll remember that goal 1 is around student learning, and goal 2 is around the adults learning, and then goal 3 is around our safe and supportive and collaborative culture. And I also added our high reliability schools levels there because goals 1 and 2 directly connect to effective teaching in every classroom, and then goal 3 directly ties to having a safe and supportive and collaborative culture, not only for the students, but also for the teachers and school staff. Okay. So before I get started, I thought it would be important to talk a little bit about the different types of assessments because they're not all the same. So there's 3 main types of assessments that compose a comprehensive assessment system. So a summative assessment is the type of assessment that is an end of the year or end of course assessment, assessments such as AP exams or CASP assessments. And that information is it has some information to inform instruction moving forward, but it's not the typical assessment that we use to really monitor student learning and make instructional adjustments. So on the other end of the spectrum, there is an assessment type called a formative assessment, and this is the most immediate and most actionable. This is the kind of assessment that teachers use minute by minute in a classroom. It could be something as observing students in a conversation, and teachers are looking for certain behaviors or certain use of academic language. It also could be what we call a check for understanding, one of our acronyms, CFU. And that could be, asking students to respond to questions in a multitude of ways. So those formative assessments are really the key assessments that teachers use to make adjustments. In between those two is something called an interim assessment, and it falls in between the summative and formative in that it actually accomplishes a little bit on both ends, right? So an interim assessment is something that that we use in our district, and we use STAR Reading, STAR Math, STAR Early Literacy as our interim assessments, and they serve multitude of purposes like what I mentioned at the beginning. It can predict how students are going to do on CASP testing, and it also definitely can give information for teachers to see how students are achieving towards their reading goals. And even in, although I have to talk about this one, in the Renaissance Learning, we have a program called Accelerated Reader, and you've probably heard a lot of our schools talk about like the Million Word Club or the number of words that students have read, and that comes from a report that's generated out of Accelerated Reader, which is under the umbrella of Renaissance Learning. So that's a super fun one that we have all kinds of celebrations around. Okay. Wrong button. So as I mentioned, today I will be focusing on 3 of the STAR assessments that we use: STAR Early Literacy, STAR Reading, and STAR Math. And the purpose of these assessments, I just kind of want to keep repeating some things because it's very important, is to plan instruction and monitor progress. That's a big purpose of these assessments. It's also to be able to find out where students are with their reading and then set goals for them. And a big piece is to intervene early. So if we can have students take assessments, or when we have students take these assessments and we see some areas that they need to strengthen, we can get in there and strengthen those areas right away. And then my favorite is to celebrate, right? Celebrate achievement and celebrate goals and words read and all that. So again, it is an interim assessment, and it's computer adaptive. So you probably heard that before. Our CASP testing is also computer adaptive, meaning it adjusts with the students. And so they don't just, when a question gets harder, and the student misses the test, then it will adjust so that they're trying to determine the student's level. And it's also very timely and accurate. Students get their results right away. Like they take the STAR reading test and they know. They take an AR test and they know right away whether they passed it or not. So it's very motivating. So a little bit about our STAR administration, our windows. We have 3 windows set for our interim assessments. We have one in the fall, typically the first 30 or 40 days of the school year. One in the winter, varies a little bit because of the high school semester schedule. The high schools have a middle of the year window in January, and the TK through 8 it's more the end of February, beginning of March. So we're actually right in the middle of the year assessment window, and then again at the end of the year to find out how students did. So what I added this slide in here because I felt that it was very important to talk a little bit about what did we actually get accomplished last year as far as administering these assessments, and then where are we this year with the administering of assessments. So last year we were able to complete the fall beginning of the year assessment. We did it normally, in person, no problems, just like we did in the previous years. And then our winter window opened, right? So we are almost, what day is it? Like a couple of weeks to the year of when we closed. So as I said, we're currently in the middle of the year testing. Not everybody got it done last year, but it was mostly completed. So we have some of that data. And then obviously at the end of the year, we did not complete those spring assessments. However, this year, we really needed to get some data. We didn't have CASP, and so we moved forward in the fall with administering assessments, even though we were in distance learning. So there was a lot of work put into how are we going to do it remotely, how do we monitor students when they're at home taking these tests, and we got that completed. And so that's what I'm going to be sharing today, is looking at beginning of the year, beginning of the year, beginning of the year. Okay, so starting with STAR Early Literacy. STAR Early Literacy we're going to be looking at participation and proficiency levels. And the reason why I included participation in these in this presentation is because it is very important for us to make sure that we're getting as many students as possible so we know how we're all doing, as well as the state requires that we have a 95% participation rate. So we really just want to model a little bit of that as we go through these assessments. STAR Early Literacy in the beginning of the year is only used for our first grade students. They do take it 3 times a year, so we'll have 3 data points, if not more. And it is a platform that's offered in English and Spanish. It's computer adaptive, and 3 main domains that the STAR Early Literacy measures. You can see right there, the numbers and operations is, it's not as rigorous as we would like for this level. However, it's one piece of the puzzle. So it gives some data there. What's kind of great about STAR Early Literacy is it tests and measures these 10 subdomains. So what is so cool about STAR Early Literacy is that it will go in and tell you exactly what a student needs to work on, and teachers can dial in on which part of the phonemic awareness that they need to work on with the child or their class, and be able to make it improve. So our participation district-wide, so you can see here again, this is fall. I want to remind everybody, this is a 3-year comparison, beginning of the year, beginning of the year, beginning of the year. So we have 2018, 19, and 20. STAR Early Literacy is actually a relatively recent test for us to start administering, so the fact that we have some pretty high levels there, a little bit of work to do as far as participation, but I was pleased to see these participation levels. Proficiency, I love the stair step up. And I want to just point out to the board along the vertical axis, it is up to 50% there. I chose to make some adjustments there so that they would be easier to see. And we have some work to do. The other thing that I also want to say is that we're using a 75% percentile rank as the benchmark. So we're actually using the end of the year target at the beginning of the year. We also use that in STAR Reading and STAR Math so that we were consistent. Even though STAR Early Literacy, our first graders obviously don't take state testing. However, we wanted to just stay consistent with that 75 percentile rank. That percentile rank number 75 was actually work that we did with Renaissance Learning, for you to know where it came from, because some of their reports you can only pull by percentile rank, or you can only pull by scaled score. And so we were trying to find like that through line to be able to have more flexibility with reports. So if a first grader were to take end of the year assessments at the beginning of the year, our current first graders, 35% of them would already meet or exceed. That's basically what this is saying. The next group of assessments we're going to look at is STAR Reading. We're going to be looking at 3 different areas: participation, district and grade, proficiency, district and grade, and then also this new, it's not new, but it's new compared to the STAR Early Literacy, is this student growth percentile. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that. STAR Reading, again, offered in English and Spanish, definitely has a high correlation with our high stakes instruments like state testing, computer adaptive, and then you can see the main 5 domains there that teachers and students get information back. And here's our participation district-wide. So with STAR Reading, all students in 2nd through 12th grade take STAR Reading, and our participation rate over the last few years has gone up a little bit, and in elementary school, the rates are pretty high. STAR Reading has been at least 10 years. As long as I've been in this district, we've been using STAR Reading and just continuing to expand it at the elementary level. So those are great levels. Our middle schools are very strong in administering the STAR Reading program. High school has been a little bit up and down. And so that's one of the things as we go through this data to just kind of keep that in mind as a lens. And one of the challenges at high school is that some of our students, they've been taking STAR Reading tests for 9 or 10 years. You also have students that, they're going into AP classes or they're in honors classes. Do we really need to give them that STAR Reading assessment? So there's still some work to be done at high school. However, I was excited to see that we had high levels of STAR Reading. And then we'll talk a little bit about the STAR Math a little bit later. So here's our proficiency. So again, this is using the end of the year target. This is saying that if the students took the CASP type test in the beginning of the year, 25% of our students would meet or exceed. That's the predictability, predicting the results of those assessments. Going into proficiency by grade level, you can see that in 2nd and 3rd grade, there's kind of a little bit of an increase there. So it's been interesting in reading some of the national reports coming out of Renaissance Learning and other areas that some of the vendors are seeing some unusual spikes in 2nd and 3rd grade, and we don't know if that is as accurate. We're not quite sure because these were administered at home. Was there a little bit more help? We don't know, so we have to kind of keep that lens with those 2nd and 3rd grade scores. 4th and 5th, about the same. 5th had a nice little gain there. And then going into STAR Reading proficiency, you can see here that there was a bit of a decline in 6th grade and 7th and 8th grade. So I imagine that aligns with some of the challenges that our middle school, all of our schools are having with just engaging students on that distance learning platform. Again, these assessments were given remotely. So we just need to keep some of that information in our head as we work with this data. 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, that lens of high school, not sure exactly what this tells us, except for we know that more students they're showing higher levels. Is that because we had more representation of students taking the actual assessment? Okay, so moving on to student growth percentile. And this is one that I really like because it actually talks about growth, and it also is one of those cohort groups. So you're looking at the same student, any student who's had 2 or more tests in STAR reading or in STAR math, and they use a scaled score. They take it over, like you can see right there, students in the same grade, students who started with a similar scaled score, and history of performance. So that means, right, that if you are reading at grade level, you're compared to another student that's reading at grade level. You're not compared to somebody who's reading 2 years above. So with student growth percentile, 40 percentile, 40 SGP, is considered by Renaissance Learning like the average growth that we want for a student. Obviously, if we have students that are below grade level in reading, 40 is not going to do it, right? We need to be tracking their student growth percentile at 60 or 70 because they need to grow faster. So, in looking at this data, very interesting. This is probably, and I also want to say that the data that I pulled this from Renaissance Learning, they did not have the 17 to 18 available. This is a relatively new feature in Renaissance Learning. I went back and double checked. So we only have these 2 years. So we have non-COVID to COVID, and you can see here that we did have some drops in the growth of our students from one year to another. And what's really interesting to me is it's about equal across all of our student groups, except for our students with disabilities. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on there? So that's something for us to dig in a little bit deeper. And I'm very eager to see what the middle of the year assessment results. I'm like, wow, did distance learning work really great for our special ed, or was there something with administration? Just, it's that onion of data. You peel back and get more answers. So in conclusion, in the area of STAR early literacy and STAR reading, we did have some strengths for us to take a look at closer and see, will those strengths be sustained as we move through the year? We did have some areas that we maintained. We definitely have some areas for opportunity. We know that proficiency levels for our students are not, I don't want to say proficiency levels, their growth was not what we wanted for this last year. We want to make sure we get in there and accelerate that as we are continuing in hybrid. So moving into our third and final STAR assessment that we're going to look at is STAR Math. Similar to STAR Reading, we'll look at participation, proficiency, and student growth percentile. And STAR Math, again, similar to STAR Reading, English and Spanish. It gives a predictor for high-stakes tests, and it measures and gives information in these 4 domains that are listed here. And this STAR Math, excited about this one because STAR Math is relatively a new addition to our suite of assessments. And I know 86 is probably not super exciting, but to get at. However, because we put so much emphasis on local assessments this year, there was much more participation in STAR Math. And so this is something I really want us to capitalize and continue to expand on. So you can see here that in 2nd and 3rd grade, wow, some huge gains, and 4th grade for that matter, in administering the STAR Math assessment. So again, I'm excited about that growth and how we can use that to help inform our instruction. And then here's our 6th through 12th graders. A little bit of a dip in participation in middle school, just like we saw in ELA, which I think is interesting. The high school years, again, a little bit all over the place. So that's something that we just need to continue to figure out, how do we monitor student learning at the high school level in a way that students will do their best on an assessment and not get bored taking the test. So we have some things in play right now, so we just need to continue to work with that. And then here's our proficiency district-wide. Again, want to remind everybody, this is 75 percentile rank. This means that if our students were to take the CASP assessment in the beginning of the year, 35% of them would meet or exceed the standard. And here's by grade level. Second grade doesn't take the assessment. Had some dips in fourth and fifth. And what's interesting, and here's, you can see the 6th through 12th. What's been interesting about the national research around the impact on COVID on student learning is that math has been much more impacted than reading has been. It's really interesting to read the reports out there. Basically, like if a student already knows how to read, it's very easy and accessible to practice your reading. With math, there's always these skills and concepts that need to be taught, and if you're not getting that instruction regularly, then it's going to be harder for you to stay up on your math. So moving into student growth percentile, again, this is that cohort looking at students over two assessments and 3 years, and it's very similar. You can see that there's almost like the same amount of loss across all groups, which I think is so interesting. And then our students with disabilities. So we're going to see what happens at middle of the year and see, you know, are we seeing that same trend, and dig in and figure out what's going on there. And then here's our strengths and then our opportunities. Really, I think one of the biggest strengths is capturing the momentum on administering the assessment. It's only going to help us as we look at the data to see what's happening with math for our students so we can adjust our instruction to increase proficiency levels. This last part I want to share, it came to us through this, what I think is a really cool platform called CORE. And they took our STAR reading and math data and presented to us some data that shows, again, like that predictive aspect of how students would do on the state tests. And a little bit of background around CORE is that it is a partnership across the state, and many, many districts are participating in it. So what they do is they actually take the data from all of these districts and kind of dump it into this like blending, you know, mixture. And what we're able to get through CORE is similar student analysis, similar school analysis, and that's something we used to have at the state level, which we lost through some of the new changes. And that's been a similar school is a really good thing for us to look at as a district because our schools are so unique. And it's very hard to compare Glenshire with another school in our district. And so it's a great resource. So you'll get to see some of this coming more to us as I get a chance to share more data. I know, right? So this graph here, this is not one of the graphs that is like a comparison with other schools or other districts. What they did is they looked again at like their performance outlook. So again, taking that idea of predicting student performance. I need to grab one of my notes out of here real quick. So you can see 2018 was the only year that we had CASP scores. Obviously, we'll have 2021. So in 2018, this is kind of interesting. So in 2018, this graph tells us in ELA that 53% of our students were on track to meet or exceed standards. Our actual ELA results that year were 60%. So I'm like, that's not too far off. We're actually seeing that when we do these predictors that our STAR comes in just a little bit lower, because what happens is STAR does not take into account writing. And so we know, and we've seen through some analysis, that those students that are on the bubble with reading, if they are stronger writers, that kind of catapults them over the bubble into the meet exceeds, or the meet standards or MET standards. So that accounts for that. So 2019, 52% of our students were predicted to score on CASP as met or exceed. We're in 2020, and at this point, again, they're using that beginning of the year data. We would be stars. This graph is telling us 52% of our students would score meet or exceed standards. So again, if we take that same thinking, we can anticipate that those scores would be higher than 52. And then looking at math, so in 2018, according to this graph, 44% of our students were on track. Our actual was 53%. So again, it's that higher part. 2019, 43%. And then this year we did, you can see the way the little colors changed there. We lost some, not lost some kids, but some students dropped down from those higher levels. We used to call these the box cars. We had students move box cars. And our total proficiency in math is 39%. So I would predict that our ELA this year in CASP is going to be probably about the same. However, I anticipate, based on this, that we will probably have some drops in math. So. A couple of highlights here on that core data. ELA is pretty much unchanged. Math, we saw it in all throughout the data presentation. And these by no means are the only things we're going to do to improve teaching and learning. These are kind of like the big buckets. One of the biggest things is consistent administration of district assessments. We need to have a strong system in place to see how students are learning, having our, it's down there on the very last bullet, having our teachers meet regularly, looking at assessment, making adjustments, and really monitoring those adjustments, right? Like, oh, I'm going to make this change in my instructional practice. Did it make a difference? I mean, that is at the heart of the work. And another big piece for our system, and this is, Ed, this has been our journey since I've been in this position, is improving the ease of and the access to accurate student data. So you're going to start to hear some words, EduClimber, DNA. You'll hear more about core, and I'm sure Ed and I will get to do a presentation on that. So it is really about putting those tools in the hands of the teachers. We have unfortunately spent so much time mining data that we have getting to the actual analysis and then action is hasn't been as attainable. And then the last thing I want to say about this shift is shifting from looking at teaching really to like, did the students learn it, right? I taught it, but they didn't learn it. Darn it, what do I need to do differently? Or, Ed, you taught it and they learned it? What the heck are you doing? You know? So that is truly, and that goes to our LCAP goals, right? Student learning and the teachers learning. And we know that. So that's what we're going to dig into this coming year. Okay, any questions?
Thank you so much, Val.
Yes.
Questions from the board? Galen, you want to start?
I have some comments. Is that appropriate to make them now?
Go ahead.
First, this was great. And this report of how our students are doing is our progress is working. And particularly, you look at perceptions going on. I'll read you a couple of quotes. One perception in national news is our students fell way behind this year. It's time to start talking summer school. That's perception around the nation. From one of our own parents, the kids are completely falling behind and barely doing anything on a daily basis. So we heard a lot of other similar kind of comments this evening from parents. And now we have data. And we have data that's comparing 2 years before we went into distance learning. That should give you an idea of what the variability is in this data. If it goes up very much or goes down very much, is that normal? And then we have the most recent beginning of the year data that you just saw after, 9 months of distance learning. So the question is, does distance learning work for reading and math? And in the reading, there are some grades that did better with distance learning. And that's interesting to look into, as Val pointed out, because these kids may be getting more help from their parents at home or maybe with the test. But if you look at the data and spread it out, the main question I was hearing from teachers that I spoke to was, we don't know if we're getting it done too well, but I'm concerned about the lower performing students, if they're dropping behind. That's kind of a national comment as well, is that the underprivileged are getting even further behind because of distance learning. Well, if you look at one of the charts that Val showed, it was called the student growth percentile. And she pointed out that in those demographic groups, they all look the same. I mean, they all had the same effect after distance learning from before. So the socioeconomic disadvantaged were about the same as the English learners, which weren't much different from the white kids. So my conclusion in looking at, oh, and by the way, I was able to look at the raw data, and I looked at the students who were like the bottom 30% and the bottom 10%. And I compared their scores after distance learning to before distance learning to see if they did drop a lot. And the answer is no, they didn't. So thank you to our teachers who did an excellent job, and to our technology that was in place and we had a running start. We are not like the rest of the schools in the country. And to hear us thrown in to that category by our parents who don't really know either until this data tonight, I think this is a real eye-opener. It certainly makes me feel a lot better about our kids falling behind in at least reading and math. And I think the answer we could say is maybe a little in math, but boy, you teachers have done an excellent job. Now, I'll also add right away, that's reading and math. That's not social, emotional, and all the other current concerns that students have. But I think clearing up is distance learning. Are we able to teach students reading and math, distance learning? I think the answer is our teachers are doing a wonderful job. Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions? Galen, I love that you dug through the data. Thank you. Yes. Yay.
I'm curious about the high school.
Yes.
So are we required to do STAR testing? And if not, is it so valuable to put the high schoolers through the STAR testing when they might even be skewing results?
Well, and that's the $1 million question, right? Is in the high school principals, and I have been having conversations since I've been in this position about whatever we decide to do with high school and the administration of these assessments. It just needs to be consistent across the high schools, right? So what they have in place right now is a way that, and this was not this year though. So in past years, it was if you scored 12th grade or higher, they were using grade equivalency. certain amount of times, then you were kind of exempt from taking the assessment anymore. What we've been talking about for this year is, can we at least agree that students will take it at twice a year? At least once. So we're still kind of in communication about that, because the tricky thing is balancing what we want at the district level to monitor student learning with, I mean, the test doesn't take that long, so it's not too much of a loss of instructional time. However, we also want it to be valuable for the teachers, right? So how do we make sure that if we're going to ask them to use this assessment, that we also give them the tools and the skills and the knowledge to be able to know which reports to look at and how do I use it to inform my instruction? And it is just tricky, right? Because we have students in all kinds of different courses at the high school, you know? So it's definitely a work in progress. Yeah, like, do we want a student who's in calculus? Yeah, calculus taking this? I mean, they're showing, if they're passing that class, we know that they're at or above. So those are the kind of things. So do we need to look at that differently for high school? Like, you know, we look at those numbers and then so it's a little bit of more of a problem to solve, a good problem, as Carmen says, a problem that we fall in love with.
So I had all my questions asked and answered in the homework, so thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. Thanks you so
Val.
much, Val.
Great
Thank
job.
you. So, I know, I was just going to say, I can't wait for the end of the year. Yes. So, I believe we're at board reports. Chris, you want to start?
We had first read of a board policy. 14.1.
Just speeding us along too fast. I apologize. I did not see any questions on this in the homework. Can we move it to consent? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Chris? Board reports?
I don't have any, just a little reminder that hopefully before the end of the year, we can start hearing from principals at our board meetings. Just see their faces, get a vibe on their school. Thank you.
I think we're all missing the school, the kids, the principals, very much. Dee Dee?
I agree on the principals and the students. That was really fun. I'm glad we had students. My board activities have been that I popped into North Tahoe High School, North Tahoe Middle School, and Tahoe Lake Elementary School. I did not go into classrooms, but I just popped in, checked in with the principals and the secretary, just briefly. And then that's it. But yeah.
Nothing for Kirsten? Galen?
Let's see. Thank you, board members, for accommodating me. Although I've had my second vaccination, as is Lynn, we're going to go visit our daughter who's got a no immune system due to her chemotherapy treatment the 9th. And so we don't want to be exposed or carry anything to her. So I asked, could I remain remote for 2 meetings? And I really appreciate it, even though it makes it, for you, I'm sure, awkward. And I'd rather be there, believe me. And then one other thing, speaking of my charming wife, tomorrow we are going to celebrate our 60th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Yeah. That is so cool. Congratulations. So I don't really have a report other than you all know we have a meeting next week, right? So right? We have a meeting next Wednesday because this meeting was pushed back because of ski skate week, right? And I am also going to need to be remote because my mother, who lives alone, is having her hip replaced and I'm her caregiver. So Ed, I will work with you on that. So I will be in Walnut Creek. So I apologize. It's so much better being here, but I guess that's one positive, right, of this situation, is being able to deal with those types of things. So we'll figure out how to do that, sorry.
No, family first.
And I don't have anything else. So we're adjourned. We'll see you next week. Thank you.